Almost there, almost there, almost there. I'm live. It is 2 p.m. of a Sunday afternoon, and I think I might be just 1 minute ahead of schedule today instead of being my normally like 4 or 5 minutes ahead. I can't be late. I'm absolutely rubbish at being late. I'm not just rubbish at it. I will sit and wait for somebody for an hour. They can be late all they want, but I will be there 15 minutes early. You said 2 o'clock, I will be there at 1:45. That's just the way I am. I haven't been able to cope in any other direction. So when I say that the live stream starts at 2 p.m. and you're late, I'm always very disappointed. Anyway, welcome to the Sunday service. Had some technical difficulties today as well. We were out for a walk this morning in the forest. And while I was walking along, I thought I'll set up the Sunday service while I'm out. So I went into the YouTube app, the app thing. Oh look, I'm live on there as well. And I started to set up the stream. So I set up the whole thing, did all the stuff, uploaded the thumbnail, did the whole lot. While I was walking on, I felt great for myself. Then I come back here to actually start the bloody live stream, and you can only start a live stream that you set up on the app from the app. I couldn't do anything else, so I didn't know what to do. So I had to cancel that one and set up a new one from scratch. It was much safer. And now the thing doesn't think I've actually done anything. I captured top moments. They've added all these sort of weird things to the live stream stuff that I don't quite understand. But I just want a live stream. That's it. It's really straightforward. Thank you all for watching the James Bond video that I put up yesterday. That video was actually made in December. But I put it up, and it went straight into copyright hell. So it sat there for 28 days until the copyright expired on it. So it was actually made 28 days ago. They were all supposed to be out by now. It's supposed to be kind of a Christmas video, a New Year's video. But it's still a good video. I kind of like it. I enjoyed making it because I'm not in it, and I get to edit other people's videos. It's really good. That's really nice. But copyright stuff really gave me a ball ache for the last few months. So that was a bit of an issue. Who's in the house? Jerry Wicklow's already here. I'm sorry to anyone else who fell out and is waiting for the other stream to start. I did delete the entire stream, so I shouldn't be able to see anything on it now, as if it never happened. So I hope you're going to join us all here. Eric Rocher is here. Thank you, Eric. You like the Bond video? Yes, I did too. Part 2 of that's coming. It's very interesting stories behind the part 2 bit and the transfer between Connery and Moore, and how the other guy, the guy who did it once, got into the part, or why he only did it once, which is the other part of that as well. Lazenby. How Lazenby only got in there and did that once, and why he thought that was a good idea to undo it once. Which was kind of weird, a strange idea, but he did that way too. Pardon me, I do have a cold as well. It's kind of a bit of a problem. I might have Ebola or possibly coronavirus, I'm not sure, but I have something wrong with me anyway, and I can't talk properly, so my voice is a bit screwed up, and I have to make videos tomorrow. My wife has just delivered, look at this, my coffee wench has turned up with some coffee and a big coffee cup, a big coffee pot thing. We bought a new pot. Remember we broke the last one? We bought a new one. Where did we get that? Lidl, Aldi, somewhere, I can't remember. It's a Bodrum one anyway. We bought that too. But I do have a little bit of a cold, a cough, and I have to do videos tomorrow for Irish Car of the Year. The Kia e-Soul films tomorrow. The Land Rover Defender is in Dublin tomorrow as well, so I'm going to go have a look at that. And then on Tuesday I have to film another video, and then Wednesday I'm recording a big podcast thing in Dublin, and then on Thursday I can't remember what I'm doing on Thursday. Something else, some other kind of filming thing. And then Friday I forget. I don't know. I don't think that far ahead. Scrubs up well, doesn't he? Says Jerry in Wicklow. Thanks, Jerry. You're so kind. Afternoon all. Afternoon everybody. Says Zdenko's here as well. Mark Turner Smith is here as well. Cross 13 has landed. Honest Truth. Oh my God, someone here is called Honest Truth. This could be dangerous. Could this be the real truth, the actual truth behind the facts, or behind the fiction even? But anyway, he says, hiya Bob mate, hope you're well. I'm very well. Liam Cotter is here. Wow, there's a lot of you here. This is very good. Jasper Kint has come and said, between ICE cars and EVs, there is a space and purpose for hybrids at all, do you think? Well, yes, there is a space for hybrids. We can't just kind of... There's lots of people out there who haven't the confidence or the understanding of electric vehicles, full electric, BEVs, I mean, to just jump in. So PHEVs and HEVs will have a certain point to the market. The problem is Toyota and their like are distorting the kind of market that's there. They're putting out this kind of half-truth, this almost based on truth stuff. And it's muddying the fields to some degree. and it's taken away from the final idea that we have to protect the environment and to protect air quality. While hybrids are brilliant, and I'm really a big fan of the Toyota Corolla and those kind of new Camry and things that are coming, and they're very, very good for what they do. They are just a stepping stone, really, to where we want to be. And really, I want a BEV car to save a V8. I'd like a Mustang Bullet in my garage, but on the weekdays, I'd like to drive an EV and just leave it at that. So they do have a future. I think it's very limited. I think PHEVs and hybrids in general will find it struggle into the future. I know Denison is now going to supply some hybrid buses to Dublin Bus in the near future. Which again, what else can you do? There isn't a battery bus that can do hard workhorse stuff. And I know Northern Ireland, thanks to Andy McAfee, of course, who's taught me this. Northern Ireland is ordering some hydrogen buses. We don't still have a fuel station down here yet, so there's a bit of a problem. Cross says he finally ordered my new Model 3. It's about time. A long time ago so we had that. ETA April, May went for long range version rather than performance. I would do that too. I wouldn't bother. I think Tesla's deadly. They make some great cars. But that performance thing, that 0 to 60 time, that kind of sprint in whatever it is, 2 point something seconds or 3 point something seconds, whatever it is, I think eventually you get bored with that. And actually all you want to do is charge less. You just don't charge so often. And I think that's more useful in long term. So the long range one is probably a better sell. And I actually think it will be worth more in the future. I think your long range Tesla will fetch more than the performance models will, because people will get fed up. That performance will become common as muck. Don't forget, most electric engines and the batteries are all basically the same. So eventually that performance thing won't be the sales point of it. So you're making the right decision. Jay Redman. Hi Bob, did you hear about the NTA ordering 600 hybrid buses? There you are, I just mentioned that. Yes, I did. I think it might be a bit too soon. I think we could have jumped that stone and went to hydrogen in Ireland. I think the hybrid buses is going to be an issue. I think because they're hybrid diesel, and whether they're a little bit more efficient, a little bit better on fuel economy, I still think we're such a small little condensed city. I mean, Dublin City is not a big city. It's a small city. Anyone's ever been to Barcelona or to Paris or to Berlin or Frankfurt, they're big cities. They're not even as big as you can get, but they're very big cities. Particularly Paris. Paris is stretched out across great big areas. So we could have went to hydrogen. We could have went to electric buses with overhead wires fairly cheap as well. You don't necessarily have to make that big jump, but there's big money involved. The NTA has a lot of money to spend and they want to clean up their environment. A good story is like this year, all the politicians who will be calling to your door will all turn up. I guarantee it. Ask what car they're driving. It'll be a hybrid or it'll be a battery, probably a hybrid, because they're renting them all, because I have it on good authority from all the rental companies that they have no more hybrid cars to rent out. So, they're all on it trying to look like they're doing something for the environment when actually doing nothing. So yeah, the NTA, National Transport Authority, ordering 600 hydrogen hybrid buses from, I think it's Dennis, isn't it? Dennis Buses in the UK is doing it, I think. Mick Mulcahy's here, come on. Digital Crow is here. Hi Bob. Are key cars legal in Ireland? KEI cars. They're not on sale here. Don't know about legal. That's a good question. I don't know. We'll have to ask our legal experts. We need a legal. Anybody want to put their hand in the air and say they're a legal expert? Find out about key cars legal in Ireland. I doubt it. But I don't know if there's actually a direct law or whether it's just like stupid. Like they say the way, scooters that are knocking down people left, right and centre because kids are riding them are illegal. They're not actually legal. It's just people are stupid enough to buy them for kids, and then let the kids play in parks with them. Hellhound, hey up, Bob. Hey up, that's a very English thing. I thought you were Irish. Just wondering. Nothing against the English. Just wondering. Hey up, sounds like a very thing I grew up on. Doran says, hi Bob, bought my Sailor Owner last year after review and love it. There you go. You see, there's always a place for a small petrol engine as well. Now, I'm driving the Mazda 3 Sky Active X. Which one's the petrol one? I forget. Mazda's very confusing for me. I find the whole Mazda sales pitch, Sky Active and all these Jinbai tie and stuff, I find that very confusing. But anyway, I'm driving a Mazda 3 this week and the fuel economy is just not as good as it should be. I'm sorry, for petrol, it should be better. They say petrol, like diesel, like fuel economy. It isn't. Not even close. It's a car that I like the look of, and yet it doesn't do anything for me. It has no passion behind it. There's no feeling of enjoyment in it. It just is a clinical exercise It's very nice, and yet it doesn't have the fuel economy. It doesn't have any sort of passion behind it. It's a very weird car, I have to say. It's the longest I've driven one, and I don't like it. And it's really expensive. 30 grand, like 30 to 35 grand for a 5-door hatchback is insane. Anyway, Honest Truth says Neil from York in the house. Alright there, Bob. Neil from York must be telling the honest truth. We shall rely on what Neil from York tells us as to be the truth. Paul Woolley says, what are your thoughts on the Chinese cars coming to Europe? The AYs U5. They're very bad at the names, aren't they? For example, Paul, that's a really good question, and I have been really keeping an eye. The thumbnail I use from this is me standing in front of an electric bus that is from China. That's a small commuter bus. You know, you'd get on that, maybe only 25 passengers on a small commute, but it's fully electric, and it's half the price of the equivalent European electric bus made by Volvo. Volvo bus is about 450 odd thousand. That one that I'm standing in front of in that picture is more like 250. 230. So now it's much lower quality, but at the same, well, I won't say lower quality, it's just, you know, it's very basic. But at the same time, the Chinese took in all of the BMW engineers, and they also took in a lot of other German engineers at the same time over to Shanghai. Now, those guys have been working tirelessly for a good 5-6 years now about electric cars. This move was made a few years back. They cleared off space and they made an electric power plant to make batteries. They have the clean room set up to the whole lot. They are literally waiting on the wings right now for the electric car industry to really pick up, and then the Chinese brands will come. Now they need to change some of their names a bit, but besides that, people, it's true what's happening right now. I mean, there's just so much going on in the electric car space right now. There's so much you don't know about. There's so much I don't know about as well. It's changing daily. I give a talk, and I've given a talk multiple times. There's more coming as well over the last while. And every time I give a talk, it's different. It's never the same because new information comes out, new detail comes out about something, and it happens every time. So for sure, you're going to see more and more electric brands coming onto the market here, with more and more clever options, clever versions of it. Now, I just want to point your attention to two phones that I have here in my hand. This is my iPhone 7. I've had that for ages. Had my iPhone for a long time. And I had iPhone 6 before that. This is a Xiaomi phone, this one. And I've had that for the last few months as well. And I've been testing kind of both together. And I can see, because the Xiaomi one is Chinese, I can see how they've worked. The battery's incredible, lasts for like 3 days. But the rest of the phone is just like ticking a box for everything else. It's 180 quid versus a 700 quid phone when it was new. So it's never going to compare, but it's still never as good. So you will find a difference between the two. Will you do us a favour and click the like button? Because there's over 100 people watching this very moment. It's only 19 likes. So click the like button if you can, please. That'd be just great. All that does is tell YouTube that there's a stream going on. That's all that happens. Okay? So nothing really, you're not going to get sick from doing it. It's not like, me. I'm not going to give you Ebola by clicking the like button. So click the like button. Irish Foxhound 1 says, just drop it in, say hi to all as out of town. We'll listen to this later on. Now back to my strong coffee, which reminds me, this does appear again as a podcast. So if you're listening to this on the podcast version, which comes out the week after, welcome to the podcast. Why weren't you listening live? You can still support the channel the same way though. The same list of links is down below for the PayPal and Patreon and all the other ways that you can support us is all down below in the links in the comments. Thanks very much. Mark Turner Smith says Doomsday has happened. 31st of January, no longer can say hello EU friends. UK now fall further into its already black hole. Well, we've both been sold a pudding there. The people that they're interviewing on television about Brexit are people who are informed by the likes of the Mirror and the Star and the Sun and so on. Get Britain's borders back to normal. Not a damn thing has changed for them, other than they now are closed for business. It's really a business decision, essentially. We'll see what happens with visas and stuff over the next 12 months. Technically, we should have to get a visa to go to the UK, and they'll have to get a visa to come here if they haven't got an Irish passport. Everybody's in control of their own borders. It's a different story for Europe because you can just drive across it. So the borders are a bit of a weird thing there, but you still have to show your passport when you land into the EU. Brexit's going to be difficult. It's going to be difficult for us too. So don't think that they're closing the door and it's like, oh, poor old Britain. It's poor old Ireland as well. We are now the biggest English-speaking country in the EU. Dublin is the biggest English-speaking city in the EU, and we are the furthest outlier for the EU anywhere. Like, we're nowhere near it now. So we're alone out here, and it may not be the easiest thing we ever had to do in our lives. We'll get through it. But it's going to be tough for us too, not just for the EU. But yeah, today is also the 2nd of the 2nd, 2020. So go backwards at 0202020202. Just thought I'd point it out. I'm sure you've seen it on the internet already today. David Reed, when does the Octavia come out for driving review? Don't know. I still don't have actually got a date for the international launch of it. I'm doing a super secret launch next Monday. Not tomorrow, Monday after. I can't actually talk about it. It's called a covered drive. It's a drive where the car is camouflaged and I'm just driving a pre-production one. I'm doing that next Monday sometime, but I can't tell you what the car is. But I don't know when the Octavia's coming out. I'm sure there'll be an invite in the post soon, I hope, and we get going and just have an Octavia. Problem is that market is dead. You know, the Golf hasn't got great reviews so far. I don't know if it's really going to be a big seller. The State Leon I was on the other night over in Martorell in Spain, that got 14,000 people watching it. My God, it was amazing. But that looks like it's going to be a kind of successful car, but versus things like the Ford Puma and all that's coming out too. You know, it's small SUVs is kind of winning that market at the moment. Would you buy speaking of Ford Puma, would you buy a Ford Puma in real life? Is any good? Yes, it is very good. There's a review on my channel. It is a very good car, and I would actually buy one. I would prefer the 155 brake horsepower one. The slightly more performance-y one, and in manual. Don't buy the automatic. It's rubbish. It's alright. If it was in traffic in Dublin, I'd rather be in the worst automatic in the world than manual. But if you're not in traffic every day, manual is the way to go. Yes, it is, but Ford Puma is a very good car. As long as I don't mess it up on the way here. It's probably going to be expensive though. Carson J. In Australia, they gave me the Car of the Year award to the Mercedes EQC, not to test the Model 3. A joke, right? It is, because the Mercedes EQC is broken and has been broken for a while here and there and has had its own little recalls and stuff as well. Now, it is a far prettier car than the Model 3. So depending on, like if you were giving out an award for something, you don't just go, which one do you like the most? That one. Award. End of story. You kind of have to think based on looks, based on value for money, based on range, based on warranty details, based on price, based on structure, based on availability. You got to take in a lot of different things to try and figure out which one is, because I'm the chairman of the Car of the Year for Ireland, so you know I run the Car of the Year every year. My last year was last year, I think. The 2020, this year's Car of the Year. When it comes up this year, I probably won't be chairman at that stage, but knowing what I know and knowing I've done it for a few years, the system that works, you try and get a consensus from a group of people. So you try and figure out through 20 people or 25 or 30 people, you get a sort of an average score, which can drive something like a Mercedes EQC to the top of the market because enough people just like the looks of it. And I think it's a very handsome car, EQC. Model 3 is incredibly smart, clever. There's a lot of clever stuff going on. The looks though can be quite divisive. I think around the front it can be a little bit weird looking, and then inside there is some little kind of finicky bits, so it's quite easy to criticize them, but I do see your point. I don't know if it's a joke, but I do see your point. Richard McCarthy Photography, you got a long username, but at least it's your full real name. Like, hi Bob, as is the Merc C350E or BMW 330E PHEV any good? VRT seems to be very low to import. Do 30 kilometers every day on short journeys, but long journeys once or twice a month. You are ideal if you're willing to plug the thing in all the time. So I had the Passat GTE last week. This week? Maybe this week. No, earlier this week I think I had it. And that's an outstanding vehicle because it's just a Passat. That's it, with some batteries in the boot, and it runs on the hybrid bit a bit. But you have to be fairly determined, Richard, to charge it in. So you drive your 30 kilometers, you plug it in, you charge it, you drive back to your 30 kilometers, you plug it in, charge it. You're going to have to do that every day to get the best from it. And then once a month you take this longer journey and away you go. Now, pure electric cars will do what you want to do, but you don't have to charge it twice a week, or once a week even. At 30 kilometers a day, you'll have to do it once a week, depending on the car you drive. Now, BMW or Mercedes do not do a full electric car, apart from the EQC. A full electric car, you can buy it at a reasonable price. Pardon me, I do have a cough, I'm sorry. But from those two, I would probably pick the Mercedes 350e. They have it nailed down pretty well. BMW 330e is quite nice, but just that 30 kilometers just drives me nuts, because the minute you want to go somewhere a bit further, it's like, good, I've run out of electricity already, so it can be frustrating. If you're determined enough, a PHEV can be very good. If you're not determined enough, then it's just a hybrid. You might as well have bought a Corolla, it's the same thing. I definitely look up some of the EVs that are out there or are coming and see if you can find one even close to the price. Adrian Webster says, I work in a Kia Peugeot, and Kia have only allocated 10 full EV of each model, e-Soul, e-Niro, for every dealer. So we are selling so many Niro hybrids because of the waiting list for full EVs. This is correct, Adrian. Under the Kyoto Agreement, they only have to reach 95 grams of CO2. So let me give you an example. Volkswagen Group make the Seat Me, Skoda Citigo, and the VW Up in full electric version. Now, they do make them, but they don't sell them in Ireland. There's two reasons behind not selling them in Ireland. One is the price of them to be very expensive here, but that doesn't matter. People would still buy them. It's proven now that people will buy them. The second and main reason is that they want to achieve their 95 grams of CO2. So when the company reaches 94.95 grams of CO2, they just stop making electric cars, go back to diesel and petrol, because it's much easier. Much cheaper for them to do it, and far more profitable. So Kia is at the same thing. Again, under the Kyoto Agreement, they're trying to reach this 95. Once they reach it, they stop. If they were 96 grams of CO2, to be huge fines. If they go way under 95 grams, so if they go down to 90 grams of CO2, then the target will change to 89 grams of CO2. And they don't want that, because it's hard to get down that far. So that's why there's this balancing act of how many electric cars you can sell per year. And that is true insider information that nobody wants to talk about, because that's what ends up with a horse's head in your bed in the morning, knowing that information. But that's what's true out there. So there is big waiting list, but they're waiting lists on purpose. They've done it to you. It's kind of round my round. Anyway, what we are actually here to talk about is about 1 million cars on the road, right? Brian says, hi Bob, love the show, man. I love you too. I love you all. You're so kind. You're very nice. 1 million cars on the road by 2030, of course, is a figure that they pull out of their hole a little bit. But, it sounds good. On paper, it sounds good. But it's actually doable. Despite me seeing an article yesterday on LinkedIn from a journalist who should have done the research properly, a properly employed motoring journalist who really didn't know what they were talking about. Weird that. That doesn't happen very often, but some people are just a bit thick. Anyway, so you can achieve 1 million cars on the road if you want to. It's hard. Not saying it's going to be an easy thing to do, but it's certainly very easy to do if you look at the numbers correctly. So how do I do this? If I say to you that every year we sell about 120,000 brand new cars. Now, we've sold up to 180,000. We've sold as low as maybe 70,000. So somewhere between the two, take an average, 110,000 cars, right? This year, I'm sort of predicting 106,000 new cars on the road. Now, if you sold 100% of them electric, you'd never reach 1 million. You just wouldn't. You can't replace them fast enough. But if you include first registrations, which is a different way of looking at it, so that's cars that are imported from other countries that can be electric. That's also cars that are brought in here, left here, and then registered here eventually, and still second hand, but they're ex-dealers. So if they got their first registration plate in Ireland, they're not built here and brought in here originally. They're new. We actually closer to 210,000 cars a year. Now, if you made all of them electric, you can make 1 million. But it's going to fail, and I'll tell you why. Because the government announced this 8 months ago and have done absolutely nothing to aid it along. Nothing. They've given 20 million quid to the ESB ESB spent that just fixing their network, let alone expanding the network. The network's nowhere near ready. The incentives have gone the wrong direction. The government is now trying to get themselves elected again. Nobody knows who the government's going to be. And so we have no idea whether the Minister for Transport, Minister for Finance, or the Minister of the Whole will be able to get this done. And I really don't think they will. And that's kind of what it comes down to. And yet you've got really cool guys out there trying to do something really clever in electric and in their network and in their service stuff and trying to get everything done, and they're not getting a hand out there at all. You've even got people like Pat Buckley down in Athlone IT, or IT Athlone, whatever it is. They're building a Jaguar electric down there as well, and Pat Buckley's leading that. He's an educator. You know, he's trying to show these people you can take an old car, make a race car of it, but full electric, and it's an old Jag. It's really cool. I'm going to be visiting down there soon, right? I promise, soon. I'm going to get down. I have to go down someday and film the car and see what it's like. I will get a chance. I'll get back down to Athlone again, I promise. But there's so much stuff we could do here that we're not doing, and our government are not doing it, and they're standing at your front door now looking for your vote. You really have to ask them about the electrification of the future, the environmental responsibility we have to fix things. If half the cars on the road in Ireland were electric, and the rest were made of hybrids and PHEVs and diesels and petrols, you know, we would be much cleaner, way cleaner than we are now. Right now, we just have too big an amount of cars that are all diesels, and that's the problem. And the Green Party is a mess, it's a joke. They're the ones who've done almost all the bloody harm to the environment. It has been done by the Green Party supporting diesels in the first place. They were the ones who went out and said, you know, diesels are great, we should get more diesels on the road. And I know all these facts and figures because I was at a launch the other day of the Nissan Juke, and the MD of Nissan got up, and at the end of it they gave us a sheet here. This is a little spreadsheet that shows the possible growth of electric cars and how it can be achieved in just pure numbers. And the more you look at it, the more you realise it can actually be done. It can be done. It's going, like I said, it's going to be hard, but it can be done for sure. I need my petrol cars, my petrol fix every once in a while. So if there's enough electric cars, I'll only have to worry about petrol then. Sorry. Cars were saved by horses were saved by the cars. Anyway, moving on. I had a Lexus CT200H hybrid for a year now. Really? That's a crap. I was going to say shit car, but I think YouTube might. That's a horrible car. It's really bad. It's just a bad car. Just run. If anyone ever offers you a CT200H in any way, shape or form from the last maybe 5 years, just they're not your friend. Just leave them and go away and find something else to do with your time. They're not worth your time. Anyway, very disappointed with it. Good man, 40 miles per hour, 40 miles per gallon. Actually, miles per hour. Crap. Petrol engine kicks in far too soon. I had a Lexus CT200H when it came out first, and I drove it home, and the very second I got on the N7, it started to scream at me, the petrol engine, because it just couldn't cope with doing any sort of normal speeds, and it was a right pain in the ass. It's a horrible car, a hatred thing. Edward Malone is such a generous person. He's given €10 by Super Chat. You're very kind. In a Leon Cupra ST right now. That's a great car. And love it, but a bit expensive to run 30 miles per gallon and doing 20,000 a year. It's a 191, so trade-in value means I'm stuck with Say It for now. Do I go for new Leon, PHEV, or wait for Elborn? The PHEV makes an interesting case for itself, because it's an ST, it's an estate, but it didn't do any intrusion into the boot, so you still have a proper estate boot, and yet it's a PHEV. So it actually makes an interesting case. Elborn, that's not a great name, I have to say, but it looks nice. I again met the designer of the chief designer and said I had a great chat with Joaquin Garcia, who's a lovely guy. He was the guy that everybody said was very boring on the stage, on the live stream. They're all going, God, this guy's gone on for a long time. He doesn't come across well in front of big crowds, but one-to-one, he's such an excitable chap. If you look up the Sayed Elborn drive I had in the UK, he's the designer I talked to on it. He's just such a nice guy, chatting one-to-one. And I do have a little bit of a video with him chatting one-to-one about the Sayed Leon. But that's actually a very interesting one. I'd wait for the Sayed Leon PHEV to come out, which will be this year. And the Elborn, lads, I think that's going to be delayed a while yet. If you look at the ID3 has been delayed, they're all on the same platform, they're all on the same thing, so I think you'd be better off just waiting for the PHEV Seat Leon ST And I'd have one of them. I would have one of them. I'd be very happy with that, first myself. Until I drive it. Haven't driven it yet. But yeah, CT200H, run. Don't do it. Darren Harris says, what do you see as the future classic cars of the future? If there's a good engine in a car, so if you've got a good old, V8 or something that's a decent joke, like if you've got a Jaguar E-Type and you've got a Moss gearbox in it and the whole lot, and you whip that out and put in an electric car, you're insane. You're insane. I'm telling you. People only buy these cars because they want a big burbly engine in it. Not because they want a whiz of an electric car, But if the car is banjaxed and it's not running, but the shell of it's okay, then you put in an electric car, it's fine. Classic cars tend to be the cars that survive or that were very remarkable. So things like a McLaren P1 will always be a classic car. But things that survive the distance is what you're actually looking for. Things like Ford Escorts and Ford Cortinas are they're proper classic cars. But they're only classics because they survived. They were kept dry indoors. A lot of these things rotted into pieces. What I see the other night that was up for sale, an Alfa Romeo 159, a guy wanted €900 for it, and I was just going to phone him and go, 159, I love 159, I want to see it, but at the bottom it says the left side is rotten. So nope. If there's rust there, as Alfa Romeo does, just disintegrates in front of you, and then that's it. Andy McAfee says he's in. Dinner on the lap. Good man. Bit of chicken dinner. That's what you want. Peter is here. Hello, Bob. Colin Whelan's here. Come on, Colin Whelan. What about the Chinese managing full EV buses? 2,400 units replaced overnight in that city. I almost cannot pronounce. This is true. This is the way that China does things. In 6 months, China went from a greenfield site to a full battery EV production plant. Fully operational, clean room technology, ready to rock, rolling out electric car parts straight away. They did that in 6 months from greenfields. You seen those pictures the other day of the hospital that they're going to build in 10 days. Clear the site, hospitalize 1,000 people 10 days later. This is how the Chinese do it, because I know they don't like talking about it, but it's basically a communist country. So when they decide they're going to do something, they just go, right, throw people at it. Just put people to work and let's get the thing done. And that's what's happening right now out there. They see the future, and they know what's going to happen next. It's going to be public transport is the big future. I mean, you think of electric trains, electric buses. You can sell 600 buses to a country of our size. Imagine how many buses England will take off you, or Paris would take off you, or Berlin or someone. When you start getting up to those numbers, then that kind of bus technology is massive. The price is still a bit high for full electric, mind you. Brian J says, love the show, man. Brian, love you too. Cross 13 says, Alexander Dennis, that's Dennis, yeah, selling off the hybrids because nobody else would take them. This is true. Higher purchase price than the EV versions with a higher service cost. Yeah, you see, the problem is we've got old men and probably old women, not to be sexist here, but old men and old women sitting at the top of the food chain of the National Transport Authority, making these kind of decisions they're getting their information from people who are as old as them, who see this electrical thing as an interference in their life, and they don't really want it, so they're going to just tick the basic minimum box of at least being able to say they're hybrids and they can go 2 kilometers on battery. 2 kilometers, not even the bleeding length of the Liffey, like. Anyway, they've gone backwards to go forwards. It's still not as good. Like the diesel buses they have up there right now are filthy. If you ever walk through Dublin City right now, even the newest ones spew out kind of grey black smoke the whole time. And I don't know why Dublin people aren't literally lynching the people who make the rules around the National Transport Authority to get something done a bit quicker. It just seems such a retrograde backward step as per usual in this country. We upgrade incrementally, little tiny upgrades instead of just going straight to the top of it. Years ago, it was a great story. I used to teach computers years ago. What we used to teach was about Telecom Éireann, because years ago Telecom Éireann used to have, a little woman who pull in a receptionist, or you ring up the operator, and the operator would pull out a little cable and plug it in somewhere else. And what they were doing is connecting your call to another person somewhere else in the country. We had that here in Ireland. We had it everywhere. UK upgraded to the next step from that, and we stayed in this kind of old plugging in, plugging out stuff, and that continued on for generations till we just jumped over them. We upgraded to the latest version. That was in the 90s, probably 1990. We just went straight from a kind of half automated system to a fully automated system, and it's worked ever since. It's been really good. It's been a really good system where the UK spent thousands and thousands and thousands upgrading incrementally over the years. We're doing it now. We're doing the incremental upgrades now, little bits. We're getting a diesel. Now we're going to get diesel hybrid. Then we're going to get electric. Then we're not going to get electric. Then we're going to get something else. It'll be years before we get there. It's just crazy. Blasphemous. Australia is an embarrassment. Falling behind in almost every metric except for shareholders, profits. We don't want Ireland or Australia. Profits and rent seeking. The anti-electric nonsense spouted by Scotty from marketing is abhorrent. Hi all. Well, that's a view. There's no doubting what side of the fence you're on, which is good. I like people who have strong views. And that's good when you have a strong view, because strong views means you've got at least a bit of information about it. Australia is what I would call a frontier company. I used to live in New Zealand for a while, another frontier country, a country that's so young it doesn't know what generation it's in. But Australia would be kind of the same. Australia tends to think about extremes, like extreme wildfires, extreme deserts, driving across the outback and all sort of stuff. They don't really think about stability and normal stuff every day. So electric stuff has always been a bit of a problem out there, and like the Australian market shrank in such a way so quickly at one point. Remember, there used to be Holden and Commodore and all those other manufacturers out there making cars. Now there's none, zero. They don't make anything in a country of its size. It's completely dominated by Asian cars. You know, Toyota, Nissan, all Subaru. They're all big manufacturers out there. So it's always been a problem out there. Pardon me, I do have a cold, so I'm trying to snivel my way through this Sunday service and mind my voice, because I got to talk again tomorrow. And it's very hard at the moment to do any talking. Owen Gannon says, hi Bob. So, will there be able to remove petrol and diesels by 2030? Well, technically, yes. What's going to happen by 2030 is the stopping the sale of straight petrol and straight diesel engine cars from 2030. Now, car manufacturers are already putting in place mild hybrids, right? So we have to be careful here how this operates, because the cars that will be excluded from being banned for sale are mild hybrids, PHEVs, and battery cars, right? So that's why nearly every car in the market at the moment is a mild hybrid, right? That's what's happening. They know it's coming. So they'll already do the bare minimum to get by it. But it'll sound like a political good thing to do. But by 2020 or by 2030, we'll all be in some form of a mild hybrid. And we'll still have our old petrol and diesel cars that will wash through the system as normal. They will go as just used cars. I think they'll actually be quite desirable by then. I think the fact that nobody wants to have a turbo or a battery car or anything else around them, they just actually want these old cars to become classic and collectible. So I think you're actually fairly safe there, Owen Gannon. Edward Malone says, thoughts on a new Leon, Bobs. It doesn't seem like any big leap from the previous model. Nothing Volkswagen Group ever does in the recent past has been a gigantic leap forward. Even the ID3 that's coming has its basis on a Golf or a Polo. You know, it's in that sort of way. So they don't do big jumps, Volkswagen. The only ones that do big jumps are people like Honda. You know, they go from a Civic and then they go to a spaceship. They just scrub it. Citroen are the same. Citroen just go, here's a C5, right? Here's another C5, and it looks nothing like the old C5. It is an entirely different car. So everybody else doesn't bother to do that now. So Volkswagen just do incremental evolution, not revolution stuff, and just go up and up and up a little bit. So the new Leon, I think actually looks good. I really like the look of it. I think it looks better than the Golf. I think it looks way better than a Ford Focus, and I think it's going to trouble some of the bigger boys in the market, but that market is quite narrow these days. It's not as good as it used to be, and unless they get the pricing right and the interior right, because the interior looks exactly like a Golf, until Seat managed to make their own sort of stab at it, I think it's always going to be a difficult sell. But I think Seat are actually doing great things at the moment and will continue going that way. Cross 13 says, Alexander Dennis EV buses use the same BYD K10 platform used by most city buses in Shenzhen, whatever that, I can't pronounce that bleeding place. Shenzhen's city bus fleet is larger than the total number of buses on the roads in the UK. That's incredible. Some country. Swear to God. And they've also granted us a coronavirus, which is quite nice as well. It was nice of them. The Chinese give us everything, don't they? Hellhound. Up from the independent country of Yorkshire. Yorkshire. You should get independence as well. Join Scotland. We'll create the Celtic thing. And we'll bring Yorkshire with us. Bob, did you have a chance to test and drive the new Seat Alborn yet? No, not out yet. Nobody's driven it yet. I will be on an early rotation of Alborn, I think. I'd like to be. For the last couple of years, I've done nothing but study electrifications of fleets. So I've become sort of an expert to these. I won't say expert, because experts suggest you know everything, and I don't know everything, but I know a lot more than a lot of other people know, who seem to have a lot of commentators out there. And I'm currently investigating an awful lot more about electric cars, so I'm hoping to be on the early chalk of most things. Unfortunately, Honda has launched their little e-car and didn't even ask me to come to the launch. I don't know why that is, but yeah, maybe Honda don't like me. Then that's okay, because it's only a tiny little car with short range, so I don't imagine it's going to have too many homes for it, but it could be good. Who knows? I'll see when it comes to Ireland. Alex Theodore. Is that Theodore the Oder? Anyway, overhead electric buses wouldn't work on rural routes, especially the ones I drive. Hydrogen buses would be better. Well, yes, overhead wires work really well in city, convenient sort of cross purposes thing. So where you're driving around a city and you're turning left, turning right, you got a grid layout sort of. Then electric buses work really well from the overhead wires. A lot of European cities have had these for years and years, and very successfully too. Rural roads, different story. Look, rural bus drivers have to go a long way down some really weird little roads. So really, diesel would probably still be the better one out there, especially long range stuff. Otherwise, it's just going to be charging all the time until we caught up, until we get up there. But don't forget, a bus can be a lot heavier than you think, and it can carry a hell of a lot more. If you've ever been on a long range errand bus, and you look into the under parker thing where they put all the luggage and it's empty, there's literally nothing there. You could easily fill that with batteries. It wouldn't really be that hard. It's just getting your hands on enough batteries to do that job with. Mini Eggs has joined us. Happy New Year. Have any more news on the VW ID Space Vision and a BEV Passat type car? Cheers. ID3 and ID4 are the only thing that Volkswagen are talking about it right now. The Passat GTE is out. We want that. The BEV Passat will be a long way off. I think they're going to put a lot of emphasis on ID3 and 4. Will be where all the attention will go. I'd say it'll be well into the middle of next year before we see anything battery electric vehicle from Passat. It'd be a good one to turn over, because like I say, I drove the GTE recently. It's absolutely outstanding. I have the estate one later on the year, and I'm really looking forward to that. It's just a gorgeous thing to drive. So quiet, just a quiet machine that just gets on efficiently, but it's still just a Passat. It's just a normal car. That's kind of what I want BEVs to become, by the way. Just normal cars. Just you stop thinking of them as BEVs, as some sort of alternative future. They're just a car. And that's what they have to be first. They have to be safe. They have to be drivable. They have to be good for the family, good for the environment, chargeable at home. There's lots of things they need to do, but they don't need to be something special. Don't forget to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and of course you can support the channel with all the links down below. So you can do the super chat, as one of our lovely people have already done, or you can do PayPal or Patreon or all these other methods that I have done there for actually supporting the channel, because I do need your support. I need to upgrade a pile of things. There's so much to do. Looking at new cameras and new stuff as well. It's like everything requires upgrading over time. But the problem is, if I upgrade the camera, if I get a 4K camera and start filming in 4K, then I have to upgrade the laptop and the computers that do the editing as well, because otherwise it just got junk and I can't do the editing. So it's hard enough to keep it all going, but if you can, it'd be brilliant. If you can't, look, just hit the subscribe button. That's always free. I'll never charge for the videos, but I do rely on people subscribing. For some reason, I have 21 million views on this channel and 44,000 subscribers. I don't understand how that happened, but it doesn't matter. It's all the one. It's all coming. Andrew Flynn. Sorry, I'm snotting into the mic now as well. It doesn't help. Andrew Flynn says, I just bought a 2015 24 kilowatt Leaf after only 2 weeks of driving. I will never go back to ICE cars. Tell me that again in about 6 months' time when you've driven a 24 kilowatt Leaf everywhere in the country. It's great. Look, if you can make a 24 kilowatt Leaf run brilliantly, that's cool. I've no problem with that whatsoever. It's up to you, of course. But 24 kilowatt is such short range. It just is. You just feel like you're always running for a charge when you do a bit of driving, when you do any sort of mileage. Different if you're doing 30-40 kilometre commute a day, as most Europeans are. Then 24 kilowatts fine. Just plug it in at night, then it's okay. But anything after that, it's like, oh God, I have to charge this car again. And in Ireland, it's like, oh, I have to go there. Is that charger working? Is there any chargers? I gave a talk down the Sheraton Hotel recently. There was 2 chargers downstairs in the car park that could hold 275 cars or something in it. And there's only 2 chargers in the whole place. There should have been 100 chargers on it, right? I won't get into that. Derek Norris in the house. Cross 13. The EV options will go all the way to coach with 1,000 kilometre. There you go. I see you can do the 1,000 kilometres. Who else hit the thumb down? You can. Something's wrong. Something's gone wrong. Why has it gone wrong? Studio mode. It's all working. Yeah. I seem to have hit an error. YouTube is not receiving enough to maintain smooth as video. We've hit a roadblock for some reason. It's still running though, I think. I don't know whether it's frozen or not. Is it frozen or not? On one side of me it says it's frozen, on the other side of me it says it's not. So I'm going to check something now, see what we got here. That's all working. The internet's working fine. They're all working. Speed test. Hold on, we're connecting again. Coming and going. And yet my broadband is running absolutely perfectly. I don't know what the hell is happening here at the moment, but it seems to be running and then it's not running. Running and then not running. Oh, yeah. Joe Lyon says, who else hit the thumb down? Don't know, I don't see thumbs down. I don't watch them. I just watch the thumbs up, boys. 92 likes is pretty good, so I'm okay with that. Colin Whelan, cannot find the like button on Android phone. Can you not? I never really watched on an Android phone, you know. I don't know where the things do be. I know when you're watching full screen on Android, it does come up with errors and problems and things, but sure, we'll get through that, won't we? E.T. Flyer says, good morning or afternoon, Bob from Florida. I'm glad to have you. You're very good. My broadband is absolutely fine. I don't know why it's all gone dead there. It's coming back up. It's slowly coming back up. We suddenly lost some viewers. Well, maybe something happened on YouTube rather than something happened on my York. Andrew Flynn says, are my comments appearing in full capital letters? Yes, they are, Andrew. Well, at least that one is. I didn't see any other ones. I don't remember answering your name before. Edward Malone, close chat and then you can hit like and then reopen chat. Really? That sounds very hard. Happy Groundhog Day. Is it Groundhog Day? God, that's a great movie. Bill Murray, Groundhog Day. I must watch that again. Probably terrible now to watch it actually. Joe Lyons says, yes, your Andrew Flynn, your comments are there, but you're just ignoring them. Mini Eggs. Have you ever sold your car yet? Are you going to get a BEV? I have not sold my car, still outside. I'm not doing it until the middle of this month or so. I don't know what I'm going to get next. I don't know. I'm trying to do a deal at the moment and see what I can get. But I'm going to root around. I'll make a video about buying the car and we'll see what it is. Audio out of sync. Don't know. 200 RX. I don't see myself actually live on my live stuff. It's not out of sync. No. Actually, that may have come from something on Facebook, may have interfered and come up on the screen there. Maybe that could have been it. Mark Turner Smith. I think is criminal EU trying to use backstop and force hard border into Ireland again after such progress in peace and harmony after all those sad, violent days. It's not going to help. A hard border will not work in Ireland. I mean, even if they said tomorrow they want to do a hard border, I'm not entirely sure they can actually achieve it because there's just so many new roads and little little rabbit warrens. What a lot of guys in England who make the laws, and even guys in Dublin who make the laws, don't realise is when you drive to the north, we never notice the difference. The only thing that changes is the road signs. That's being honest with you. You go from seeing 50 kph or 50 in a circle to 30 in a circle, which is miles per hour. That's the only way you'd know you cross the border a lot of the times. I've regularly driven to Rally School Ireland, which is on this side of the border, but it's in Monaghan, so it's very close to the borderline. And to get there, you can either go N7, M50, M1, or you can go straight up the country to Mullingar and across that way. And when you do it that way, you actually cross the border maybe 7 or 8 times in that one single journey, just kind of blip back and forward across the border line. There's a road that runs almost attached to the border, but it doesn't track the line on the map, it just goes straight. So backstop thing and borders and hard borders and stuff just won't work in Ireland. It's going to be a big problem. Jim Dunn says, hi guys, Jim the bus driver. February greetings to all. Welcome, February has landed. We have reached the 21st century down here in the opening of the RFK bridge during the week. Unbelievable structure. That's true, I saw it in the news. I've been down there, but I saw it. It looks good, alright. I must go down and visit that. I'm trying to do another series of videos of the best drives in Ireland as well. But that's very hard to do because I film alone, and that makes it quite difficult to try and get everything done at once. And it's also really busy at the moment. Al Green, the singer. Are you the singer, Al Green? What did Al Green sing? I forget. I can't think of any songs now. But anyway, Al Green was the singer. Hi, Bob. At what speed does the Lexus NX 300H switch from electric to petrol? Well, it depends on the conditions. So it also depends on how hard you press the accelerator pedal. So if you press it very, very gently, it will run until it's empty on electricity. It usually will kind of cut in the petrol engine between 30 and 40 kilometers an hour. If you press hard, the petrol engine just cut in straight away, immediately, and the two engines will boost together. It's very complicated electronics programming going on in the background that controls the two. So there's no kind of set speed or set thing that happens. Who would you contact in Lexus to actually find out the answer? Who's in Lexus these days? Is it, I forget who's in Lexus Ireland now. I have to figure that one out. But I will ask for you to find out, is there an actual speed that it happens at? But as far as I remember, it depends on how hard you press the throttle as to whether you're going to get it or not. Ray Grace is here. Hello, Ray. How are you doing, man? Wait, no, it's about to jump forward. I knew it was. You know, I've learned to predict the little pause it does just before it gives about 6,000 comments up the screen. I have to scroll all the way back up to find the right one again. YouTube is just such nonsense these days. Like I was saying about the James Bond video I put out yesterday, that was actually made 29 days ago. Like, that was way back during Christmas break I made that bloody video, and I was going to make a whole heap of them, but it just got stuck like that with the copyright thing. And now the same problems happen with the chat the whole time. It's like the chat builds up and then it goes bang and forward. You're supposed to just ignore all those other ones, whereas I always try to answer every question for you. That's why I asked you to support the channel as much as you possibly can. If you can give an old super chat, it'd be great. Or, you know, PayPal or Patreon or any of them outlets that you can support the channel somewhere. It'd be really good. Don't forget payday just happened as well for a lot of you. Peter says, hi Bob, really enjoyed your stream from Barcelona. So did I. That was a bit of crack actually. So many thousands of bleeding questions. I couldn't keep up with it all, but I did try and show everybody the car. You noticed that I was first out of the seat and first inside the car. First one to show the interior of the car that day. But it's a good car. It looks like a really good car. 200 RX says, what medium-sized sedan with 4x4 2-litre engine would you recommend as best comfort and technology? The fact that you said the word sedan makes me think immediately that you're in America, that it's an American question. Very few European countries use the word sedan in their technology. So that brings me down to what kind of 4x4 2-litre engine would you recommend? You could look at some of the Volvo stuff. They don't do 4x4 as many times as they should, but they actually do have 4x4 versions of the V90 or something around that size. You can also look at more unusual brands that might be in your area, which would be something like a Subaru. Subaru seems to go down very well in the US. I wouldn't be a big fan of Subaru. I have to say they're a bit odd for me, but you never know. You just never know whether people like that or not. But medium-sized sedan, you're still looking at. I don't know about America, but you can definitely get a Passat over there as well, around that size, and you can get the 4Motion version of it, which is a 4x4. Why do you need a 4x4? Corrigan71 says, good evening. Colin Whelan, good point made on charging FEVs. If you don't get the benefit. It's true. If you can make a PHEV work every day for you, you probably should have bought an electric car anyway, because they're deadly, but only when you plug them in, and you just find you have to plug them in all the time, everywhere you go. You just, because you get such short little bursts of range of it, and then you get fed up doing it. After 2 weeks of plugging a thing every day, you're going to get bothered by I have to plug it in again. So then you stop plugging it in, and then it's just a hybrid. And then it's always got the little red light on, sets out electricity and stuff. You need to plug it in once in a while. You never really see the benefit back out of that. And so you might as well have just bought a light petrol car with 100 kgs less in the boot, because that's what the batteries weigh. Or just buy a battery car anyway. Just buy a full battery car. Much better. Ray Gray says, the new Renault Captur looks very good. Your comment, Bob. It does, actually. A very pretty car. I haven't driven it. I haven't gone near it. I haven't been in it. I haven't seen it. I've only seen one here in Portage. There's one been sold. Now, I did very kindly. A lady let me have a look inside the car, because it's parked beside mine one morning. So I had a look inside it, and I do think the interior is a bit cheap looking. Do you not think? I think it is. But now I'd have to see it up close and personal. I only had a brief look, but it just felt a little bit cheap. But the exterior is very pretty. It's a very nice, handsome car. I still think that the Volkswagen T-Roc, is it T-Roc or T1? No, T-Roc is the best prospect in that range. I think it's very, very nice. The Skoda Kamiq is very nice. A little bit odder on the front, but God, it's such a good car to drive. And the Ford Puma, which is a tiny bit smaller than them all, like Ford Fiesta size, is the best to drive by miles. Such good fun. That mild hybrid system, and it really works very well. But Renault Captur looks okay. If you get one fairly well discounted, I wouldn't turn it down. But I do still think the interior just looks a little bit on the cheap side for what I would expect Renault to be able to do when they're upgrading their fleet to be the kind of executive car. And still, I'm looking to see that I can't see the difference between it and kind of, basic range stuff. I get it when it comes to Dacia. They appeal to a certain market that's a very mature market that gets into their cars because they're coming out of 10 and 15 year old cars, and so they can afford to be reasonably cheap. But Renault really do try and compete up there with Volkswagen, and Volkswagen had them murdered on interiors for sure for the T-Roc. It's just a nice car, and wouldn't be an ass's roar in the difference in price either. Corrigan says, O2 Merc S320 diesel for 700 quid. How do you get a taxi driver road taxi? You can't. It's probably too old as well. Taxis can't be over 10 years old, I think. Is that right? Something like that. They have to be under 10 years, and there's only a certain amount of taxis you can choose from. So the old S-Class been on the road cannot have a taxi driver road tax anymore. You have to pay the normal road tax, I'm afraid, just the normal thing, which would be probably, what's that, 1,900 or $2,000 or something per year. You see, I don't know why you don't drag the politicians out on the road and absolutely kick the stones out of them, because paying that kind of money just because the engine's big is ridiculous. The most environmentally friendly thing you can do for your future of any vehicle is to keep it on the road for as long as you possibly can, and when it falls apart, then you replace it with a new car as efficient as you possibly can get. So just because a car is old and big engine doesn't make it wrong and terrible and bad for the environment, so they just penalise it. See, the government, if they don't understand something, to tax it. That's how they do things. Cross 13 says, hi Hyundai. Hi Hyundai. Hyundai Kia has problems with the battery supply. They're selling every single one they can make. That is, and you know what? The story repeats itself across all of the brands at the moment. Anybody who's even remotely making a few battery cars is having problems with battery supply. It's not really down. Look, the kids aren't down holes mining stuff out of the ground. It's doesn't work. It's only that 4% of the battery is made from mined materials, but there is other offsets like cobalt and things that are in it as well. But it's not really that. It's just because they can't make enough of them, and not many places ramped up to make batteries. So look at Volkswagen, for instance. They don't make batteries, right? Kia and Hyundai do make batteries, but they're either selling them out to other companies, or they've made enough of them for themselves and they can't make enough cars of it. So we are in a transition. This is the Industrial Revolution transition period right now that we're going through. So we have to ramp up to it, and I don't think we'll ever actually be able to ramp up to the amount of batteries we need, because if you look at the amount of lithium ion phones, right? Phones, laptops, this thing in front of me, anything that's battery powered at the moment is lithium ion batteries. So realistically, we're constantly trying to make them for all kinds of big, small, everything in between, and it's just ramping up to the level we need is going to be quite difficult. So you're definitely safe. Look, if you want to buy a diesel car at the moment or a petrol car at the moment, you're definitely safe buying those cars. Nothing terribly wrong with them, and they're much more plentiful and cheap now as well. Andy McAfee says, not that far out within EU, Dublin isn't as far from Brussels as the likes of Sofia. Yeah, but they're connected by land. We have a sea between us. Anyway, there were 3 times more fluent English speakers in the Netherlands than in Ireland. Cyprus is the most isolated, plus right-hand drive. That's true. Don't know about the Netherlands thing. There is a lot of English speakers there, but it's not their first language. So they speak Dutch first as their first language. Our first language is English and then Irish. Tommy Mulligan. No reasonable price to go in excess of 200 miles. I got to Achill every year from Dublin, which is exactly 200 miles. I just bought a Toyota Corolla Touring Sport Sol Hybrid instead for €34,500. See, great value in those cars. That's the big difference for people. And you're right, Tommy. You're absolutely right. If you're doing that kind of journey regularly, battery cars are still a pain in the hole because the other end of charging needs a charge point. That's the biggest problem. So I can, in theory, drive from Dublin to Galway and off the way out into Westport. But is there a charge point operating out there? Will I have to wait for 8 to 10 hours to drive home? Whereas if I'm in my little hybrid or a petrol, diesel, whatever it is that you're driving, you drive out there and chances are you got enough fuel to go home again. Or if you haven't, there's definitely going to be a petrol station open somewhere within range to get you there. So we still have a few that just can't make that kind of journey you're talking about. But the vast majority of Ireland lives in Dublin, right? And the vast majority of them drive 30 kilometres a day. Maybe, if they're lucky, 30 to 40 kilometres a day, and that's it. That's all they do. And so they can be easy electric, and you can save your hybrids and your petrols and even a V8. Because I'd like a Mustang Bullet. I'd never be able to afford one, but I'd like one. Doesn't stop me desiring the thing. That V8 bang from it. I love that sort of noise. Mark Turner Smith says, good, you got in a test of the Passat GTE. Seems them in showrooms look fantastic but expensive. Would the Passat GTE, Golf GTE ever be a good second-hand buy after 4 or 5 years old? Yeah, well, you see, they're just a petrol engine. And actually, Passat has the 1.4 TSI engine, which is a lovely engine. Really smooth. And it's a battery backup sort of thing, you know, it's able to push it along a little bit. So, yeah, they'd be a great little buy if you can find them. They're going to be fairly rare, though, because they're not big sellers. So they're going to be fairly rare by the time you get them over to 4 or 5 years old. Kenneth Fitzpatrick says, Bob, why not use hydrogen instead of electric car? Would be cleaner. Yeah, it would be, but we don't have any hydrogen filling stations. The biggest problem, well, right now we have electricity everywhere, right? There's electricity running this thing that I'm talking on right now, and it's coming straight out of the wall in my house. So electricity is everywhere. All we need to do is find ways to put plugs on it so we can plug cars into it and charge at a kind of reasonable rate. I have a 7.4 kilowatt charger there. It can charge an empty Kia e-Soul in about 6 hours, right? So it's not a big deal to plug in overnight. Hydrogen is technically cleaner. If you look at it as pound for pound, the burn of it produces water, but it's actually very hard to make. It's very hard to store, and it has to go into a hydrogen fueling station. So it has to go into a station that can't be here in my backyard. Like, the other problem is that a hydrogen powered engine isn't actually that fuel efficient. So I've done enough research to know that hydrogen fuel, if you take a 2-litre petrol engine, if you take a 1.4 litre petrol engine as a PHEV version of it, that 1.4 petrol engine will get about 5 litres per 100 kilometres from it. A hydrogen equivalent with the same sort of power output will probably only do about 10 litres per 100 kilometres. So you'd be filling it up more often. That's the other problem with that as well. So we need to, there's a good bit of research to go on. Hydrogen is definitely coming as a fuel source eventually for some of the bigger engines, commercial purposes, maybe even things like shipping or whatever will go to hydrogen, but I'm not sure our humble little car that's going to be outside the door is going to be hydrogen in the next foreseeable future. Andrew Flynn says, I drove from London to Holyhead in my 24 kilowatt Leaf. Not saying you can't do it, just saying 24 kilowatt is quite a restriction on range of cars. You have to be fairly determined to make that work. The 40 kilowatt Leaf has plenty of supply out there. You can get them pretty handy. You can actually get them second hand pretty handy as well. And now there's another 62, is it 62 kilowatt? Yeah, 62 kilowatt one, which they call long range, but I don't think it's actually that much longer range than the 40 kilowatt one because it's a lot heavier. Sorry, I need regular intake of coffee to keep my throat from coughing and closing up all of a sudden. Andrew Daly. Wait till I just go into the mic. Sorry, Andrew Daly. Hi Bob, what are your predictions regarding the American election in November? Do you reckon that Teflon Don will win again or a Democrat? Right now, from looking from this side of the country, it looks like Donald Trump is in trouble, right? And we might have another president coming in. But if you actually talk to Americans, generally speaking, middle America and people who are in sort of middle management who feel very hard done by because they're taxed to health and they have no medical care, they don't have any free care, none of that sort of stuff. They're the ones who really like Donald Trump. But he also manages to gather a lot of votes from people who don't have a clue what's going on in the world, what we would term over here to be hillbillies, the Texas view or whatever. Whereas the other candidates currently seem to be getting a bit of traction in the cities, in places like New York or Chicago or Seattle and places like that. They seem to be kind of a little bit higher education and they seem to be able to make better rational decisions. So I would suggest that if Donald Trump wants to run again, I think he probably will get in. He is very popular with the American public. And makes as much stupid crap as we hold him up here, and the stuff we show him on the news where he's forgotten whole words and just brushes over them. I don't know if he can be really troubled till he wants to get down, unless he does something really thick. I think people just let him away with everything. I don't know why exactly. I'm not sure why he gets away with it all, but he seems to. And I see every day on Reddit, I see a post with him in it at the top of Reddit saying how bad he is and how nasty he is and how much of an interference has been in elections and stuff. And still, people don't care. It's quite simple. That's it. Oh, reminds me, I actually heard my Sunday service was quoted in a news report in Paris for some strange reason about electric cars. And they used a clip out of the Sunday service, which is wild. Thanks very much for not crediting me, but you used it anyway. And I also seen it quoted by a famous Irish journalist in their articles and didn't quote me either. Thanks, all the same. See, when you know enough about electric cars, people just want to quote you. By the way, if you want to catch me this week, I'm on Midlands 103 on Thursday. I'm also on the Ray Darcy show, the radio show, in the afternoon on the same day this Thursday. So I need an airplane. So we can lend of a helicopter to get me from Tullamore to Dublin in about an hour. We'll see how fast the BMW 3 Series diesel is next week. Adrian Webster, that's fine for 1 million cars by 2030. It's not doable with that issue of producing enough cars because of CO2 emissions and managing their fines. Well, now, see, the problem with that is we don't have to produce 1 million cars. We have to produce about 500,000 cars, which is what we normally produce anyway, around given that 10-year mark. The rest of them are already built, technically. If you start looking at where they are already out there and all over the country and all over Europe, we can already import at least 1 million electric cars. The problem is we just are looking at new car sales, and most of the people who are giving out stink about these electric cars, 1 million electric cars, they're the ones who don't sell electric cars. That's usually the ones that give out the most. Jim Dunn says the cost to produce hydrogen is huge and it's actually unenvironmental to produce. Don't know about unenvironmental. It's not very efficient. I mean, you can make hydrogen yourself at home. There's loads of YouTube videos how to do that. Just essentially salty water into a vat, heat it up a little bit. The steam that's coming off that, or the product that's coming off that, is part hydrogen. You can catch it in a plastic bag. But that... you could catch a parachute full of the stuff and it wouldn't move your car from here to there. It's not terribly efficient to make. That's the problem. Extracting hydrogen is quite difficult, and extracting at any reasonable pace is a big problem. Mark O'Reilly, hey Bob, just wondering, if I'm just wondering, lads, I don't know what time am I answering questions from, because there seem to be a lot of questions. Toggle timestamps. I'm going to break the internet. Here we go. Number alright. 2:24. Oh my god. I'm over half an hour behind you. I'm really sorry, everybody. I'm trying my best to keep up with all the questions, but it's nearly impossible to give proper answers and actually keep up with it as well. So we'll keep going anyway. Mark O'Reilly says, hi Bob, just wondering about the logic of VRT. There's no logic to VRT. I can tell you now straight off, without even reading another word, I can tell you that VRT is the greatest load of horse shite you've ever heard in your life. Now, that's what VRT is. It's the worst tax that has ever been brought into this country. And to my dying day, I will continue to tell anyone who asks me that VRT should be entirely abolished. That is, it entirely supporting vast industries out there on VRT, and the government does nothing but tax you to death for the sake of owning a car, with the full support of the car companies in the SIMI. So all of that VRT is the reason why that they brought in the NOx tax on the EU, on the English cars, and why we've never even attempted to compete with the price of a car in England. VRT is a tax on you, on your car, on everything you do, and there's nothing I can do at all about it. But VRT is a whipping stick, and is supported by the car companies, and is supported by the SIMI, and is supported by the dealerships, because they don't have to pay any of it. You do. You're the taxpayer, and you pay that tax multiple times over. It should be abolished long ago. Brought in by Bertie Ahern, believe it or not. It's not a tax on, it's called vehicle registration tax. Not a tax on the car, it's a tax on the reg plate. But it's the law to have an Irish reg plate, right? Legally you have to have it, and then legally you have to pay the VRT. Anyway, we'll run about a question now to get off me high horse now about VRT, because it's an insane tax. Why is there a 14% charge on new cars, but according to the revenue VRT calculation site, there is 0% VRT on EVs imported from the UK? Currently, they give a grant of five grand, which is a VRT rebate on electric cars, and that's why it's just granted by the government. So it's an encouraging to make you buy an electric car. It's given to the wrong people entirely. It should be given to businesses to put in charge points. But anyway, you get 5 grand off a 50 grand car. Wow! The cars are too expensive because of VRT. The cars are too expensive because of greed, and the cars are too expensive because of the grants. Car companies know that you're going to get a €10,000 grant off your electric car, so they make the car about 6 or 7 grand more expensive than it has to be, because they don't want you to buy it. They want you to leave it alone, because they don't want to make any more of them. It's a conspiracy, but there you go. Johnny Dub says, "Hi Bob, how's the form, lads?" All well, Johnny Dub, we're good. I'm still irate about the VRT question. Any question on VRT makes me just kind of go, I hate it. Operator Hoot has landed, good. Michael Carton, remember I'm half an hour behind you, more than a half an hour behind you. If you ask a question now, I won't be able to answer for another half an hour, give or take. Michael Carton, thinking of changing my 2012 1.6 VW Caddy van for a 2017 Ford Transit Connect. Good or bad move? What do you or your followers think? Cheers, Bob. No problem, Michael. If you're in a VW Caddy, there's a new Caddy coming. I'm actually going to the international reveal or world premiere of said new Caddy. And there's going to be an electric one coming as well. Now, the 2017 Ford Transit Connect is actually my favourite looking van of those group. I like the Caddy, but the Transit Connect's a nice looking car. Also has good tie down points in the back, but essentially they're the same. The Caddy's more comfortable, I think, than the Transit Connect. And I don't really do vans, but I know comfort, and I do find the Caddy a little bit more comfortable. Now, the one that takes the modifications best is the Caddy. So if you're going to modify the wheels or do anything to the outside of the car, it actually makes it look really good, sporty wise. But 6 in one, half a dozen the other, kind of, so to speak. Transit Connect is a lovely yoke and will actually fit more bits and pieces in it than your 2012 Caddy. Hope that answers your question. Josh111 says, opinions on the Ford Fusion as a first car. Would you pick petrol or TDCI? I would go petrol. Ford Fusion not bad. Myself and Sinead McCann did a review on the Ford Fusion, a really old one. But it's a good little car, very square, very boxy, so you fit into it quite easy with your arms all stretched out. So it's a boxy sort of vehicle. I quite like them, actually, in their own sort of way. It's a Ford Fiesta with a kind of bigger top to it. But I would go petrol because it's much cheaper to service a petrol. You can service it yourself. Is really straightforward. The difference at the pumps really doesn't make up for it when you get to it. When you go to get a service on a TDCI, you know why. Like a petrol can be serviced from €99. A diesel wouldn't be serviced for under 200. So it's double the price immediately for standard service. And if you're going to do the pollen filter, the air filter, the fuel filter, the oil filter, and a whole lot on a diesel, then and the glow plugs and things, you're going to be up closer to 350 quid. Whereas a petrol, you could do all that still for about 100 quid. So it's much cheaper to service an old petrol car, and old petrol cars are put up with high mileage a lot better than diesels will. Wayne Follett, Bob, tested a 2-litre Corolla on Saturday. I really liked it. Am I normal? You need to lie down, take a couple of tablets, relax, drink some coffee or something. I'm sure you'll come back to normal after a while. But yeah, I suppose. What's wrong with a 2-litre Corolla? I like Corollas. I owned 2 Corollas once upon a time, the old ones, 89 ones. Jeez, I drove the shite out of those cars. So much fun. Also had a AE86 once upon a time as well, for a short while. But a friend of mine took a loan of one night and put it around a tree. So that was the end of that. Byron Masters, hi Bob, great videos fella, thanks very much. From hearing what you're planning to replace your Leon, I can strongly recommend a Corolla Touring Sport 1.8 hybrid. Had mine nearly 6 months now, still loving it. See, I like an old hybrid, I really do. I have to very specifically, see, my problem is, my little Leon does about 6,000 kilometers a year, max, right? So it just drives around the town, really. And once in a while, my wife will take it to see the family. She'll go over to their houses, which is kind of, you know, Tullamore, Port Ireland, and that kind of direction. And every once in a while I might go to Newbridge, you know. Right now it's down the shopping centre, and it's also down the swimming pool. You know, that's that kind of thing that goes on. So it doesn't go very far. So technically I should buy an EV, but EVs are so expensive. I'm going to have to very carefully weigh up when I can do this or not. So, because I don't have a lot of money, I can tell you now straight off. YouTube is not a high paying thing. Or I could just buy whatever I like. It just doesn't work that way. Cross says they should start with an EV sales quotas on dealers, 10% in year 1, 20% year 2 would make car per sales. Yeah, it will, because dealers don't want to sell electric cars, lads. And I'll be honest with you, I know a lot of dealers. First of all, dealers don't know anything about electric cars. That is a big issue, and it's going to get bigger, because I've had dealers come to my talks and talk to me afterwards going, I didn't know half of that. And these are people who are selling these cars. Two, the supply isn't there, so that they want to sell what they can have, right? So a dealer wants to sell what they've got in stock. Don't think for any 1 second they want to order you a car. They just want to get their stocks down. So if they've got 10 petrol cars outside and 1 electric, they don't want to order another electric for you. They want you to buy a petrol one. So that's how that works as well. This isn't trade secrets, and this is just the way it is. There's so much stuff that could be done to we're encouraging the wrong end of the market. Let's say this again. We're encouraging the consumer. The consumer doesn't actually need encouragement. Who needs encouragement is the businesses to put in charge points. Any petrol station being built currently should be forced to put in a single fast charge point, but a bank of 10 slow charge points. And when I say slow charge, I mean 22 kilowatt or a mix of 7.4 and 22 kilowatt chargers. It should be immediate as part of the planning permission that these things go in. Any other petrol station should have to put in a minimum of 5 slow charge points. And now, no minimum on a fast charge point, because fast charge is very, very expensive to put in. When you put it in, if anything happens or a road changes or whatever, you know, if you build your petrol station on a motorway and you put in a fast charge point, and you go, great, here's 3 fast charge points, woohoo! And then a plan of permission in 3 years' time comes in and changes the road, so it doesn't actually go by your petrol station anymore. What are you going to do with them charge points? They're fairly useless, do you know? So we have to be kind of careful where we put them, because fast charge, you shouldn't do it all the time anyway, but you have to be careful where they're going to be. So there's an element to that part. So there's lots of encouragements we can do around the edge now that we're not doing at all, and that's a big issue, I think, at the moment. It's a really big issue, because the government is useless. They're changing them, of course, but they're useless currently. We're going to have a Sinn Féin, Fine Gael, Fianna Fáil or something. Sinn Féin, according to the Red Sea poll, are polling higher than Fine Gael. Think about that for a minute. Sinn Féin will come in and stamp all over the Brits. That's what will happen next. That's the first words out of their mouth, I'm telling you. Terry Atkinson, we hear your voice and a second later your lips move. Well, you know, that's me in real life. That's what happens when I talk in real life. When you meet me, my face is flapping, words are coming out, but they're not necessarily synced together. So it's quite normal. It's okay. You can just turn off the visuals and listen to the audio part. It's fine. You don't have to watch and hear at the same time. If anyone's listening on the podcast, nothing much has changed. It's still the same as it was a minute ago. I don't know, something desynced there a second ago, because I noticed the concurrent viewers went down and then came straight back up again. So something happened, some sort of desync happened along the way, and it's all gone Pete-tong. It could also be that this laptop is under such severe pressure at the moment to try and get everything done. It's finding it difficult to keep itself awake. A bit like me. And get rid of that screen. See if I can shut down anything else that's using any graphical stuff, right? In case something is running in the background, is bothering everything and not working properly. Right, now turn off everything, see if it actually catches up. Annie McPhee reckons that's just me practicing ventriloquism. No, it's just me in real life. That's when eventually you all meet me, you'll see my mouth is moving and the sound is coming out, but it's not necessarily the two are not necessarily connected at all. Cormaca says, how are you after that Mad Leon launch? Your man presenting was a bag of laughs. He was. He's great off camera, mind you. But yeah, I know, on camera. That's my life at press conferences. You sit there and listen to some guy telling you all about the sales figures for something or other, a big graphic behind him. Let's just watch this video, kids. Click. And this little video. That's my life at press conferences. It happens the whole time. But I actually got this cold. I thought I got coronavirus down in Barcelona, surrounded by people from all over the world. I thought, is there any Chinese people here? Any of you people Chinese? Because I don't feel very well. But I don't think so. I don't have a temperature or anything, so I'm alright. But if you want to come around and examine me, see if I have a coronavirus, then let me know. There's 113 concurrent viewers. There's 113 likes. Well done. That's a good trick. I've never seen that one before. You can support the channel as well, but there's a list of links down below if you want to throw in some money, some beer money, or money towards cameras or stuff to make upgrades, which is what I'm at right now. I kind of need to upgrade the laptop, kind of, and I was thinking about upgrading the cameras as well. I'd like to get a Sony A6300, I think. I've never used Sony. I've always been a Canon guy, so I'm not too sure what they're working on, but I do like the results that you get from those kind of mirrorless cameras. And Canon doesn't really have a 4K one. I know the M50 exists, but that looks so small. I think I'd lose the thing in my pocket. It looks tiny and very hard to upgrade. So I think the Sonys might give me the best bang for buck out of it. And but it's still going to be well in excess of 500 quid, even for a used one, which is where I tend to buy most of my cameras used, by the way. I don't tend to buy new very often. The Butcher IRL is going to post up the Dundalk and coffee pics from today. Some amazing cars, has grown to a huge event, first Sunday of every month. I never think of it. You know that? I really never think of it. If somebody wants to post that in the Sunday service next time it's happening, post a link to the event and we'll put it into our calendars. And remember, I might do a live stream from it if it's on and if it's good and we go along to it. I keep forgetting about it, and I know everybody but if it's not in my Google calendar, I don't even think about it. It's gone. Plus I never want to miss the old Sunday service. Great crack. Peter says, hi Bob, have you seen the Chinese Neo EV? They swapped the battery in 5 minutes. You just drop the battery station and book an appointment with your mobile. Do you think they will catch on in the UK and Ireland? Do you know what? I'll tell you a great story. 8 or 9 years ago, a fella called Eric Bassett came to this country as the managing director of Renault Ireland. And at a press conference, he said he wanted to have 100,000 electric cars on the road by 2020. That was true, and that didn't happen. But at that same press conference, we're nowhere near that. I think it's 10,000, if it's even 10,000. Anyway, at that same press conference, he said that they were going to put these systems into dealerships in Ireland where you would drive your electric car there, pick up a new battery and drive on, right? Now, it sounded good at the time. This is 8-9 years ago, so you're quoting this now as a Chinese Neo EV. 8-9 years ago, Renault were doing this. The thing was, you'd have to keep hundreds of batteries in stock. And the other problem is that you need to have very highly trained technicians on site keeping these batteries charged and keeping everything going. So you've got this major investment that would need to happen to have this work out to be even remotely affordable. The far better idea there is to have long-range batteries that are able to go 1,000 kilometers, which will come, but I just don't see it happen in the next 5 to 10 years. But I think it will happen eventually. We'll get that 1,000-kilometer range one out of it eventually. You have to be careful because you devalue every other car once you put in very long-range batteries. Johnny Dub says, I have a 1.25 Fiesta Z-Tech, and what a car, what an engine. It used to be brilliant. Eats fuel, but a great car. If you tried the whole of it, eats fuel. 1.25 Fiesta, an absolute sow on petrol, but possibly bulletproof as you can get. The PSA 1.4 diesel in them is awkward enough to work on, but nearly guaranteed to need injector seals at some point. It's true. That Z-Tech engine was absolutely peachy engine. That thing would rev to the nuts off itself. Such a great little car. You still find them whizzing around Mondello there every once in a while as well. Great engine. If you ever find yourself, if you can find a titanium spec 1.25 Fiesta, Z-Tech spec 1.25 Fiesta, I think it's called a Steel. That's going to be a collector's item in the future, for sure. Just such a pretty car, as is any Ford Puma, but particularly the 1.7 litre petrol one. Cross13 says, the reason Honda didn't send you to an invite was probably because Honda aren't selling the Honda E in Ireland. I don't know. And there is journalists going from Ireland. It's a shame, really, because Honda are in trouble. Like, and I've been in trouble for years. There's such short amount of product, and they don't really make European product. I don't know if you mean, I don't want to insult anyone from Honda, but really the product is not designed for the European market. It's designed for everywhere else, not really here. But at that same point, the Honda E is a kind of a funny, weird. I've sat in it. Frankfurt Motor Show, they had them there. It's a weird little car. It's very cute to look at, but I really don't think cute is going to help sales. we all actually just want a good car, you know. That's all we're all waiting for. If you could give me an electric car that felt good to drive, that, you know, when you turn in crisp on the corners, I could do a couple of laps of Mondello on it, then you know you're going to get a good review. It's not the powertrain that's the problem. It's because if I took an e-Soul, my favourite electric car, Kia e-Soul, if I go into a corner hard than that, I'm going to crash. It'll just go straight onto the wall because it's understeery as all hell. But drivers don't tend to drive electric cars. They tend to drive fast cars. Annie McPhee says, trolley buses were all over the place decades ago. Belfast had it all sorted. 245 of them were served the city from 1938 to 68. Then we used paper bags, recycle our milk bottles every day, and what happened? He's absolutely nail on the head, Andy McAfee. We all went cardboard. We got rid of milkmen. We wrapped our butter in a sort of a foil stuff, totally recyclable. We used to use it here for chickens as well. You cover your chicken to stop the breast burning on them as well. You cover it with old butter things. We have to stop consuming so much stuff. We need to start thinking about reusing, not necessarily even recycling, reusing stuff. It's bottles of milk, glass bottles. What I'd love to do is, I've seen it in the US, and I actually seen it last year sometime. And you know, it escapes me where it was. I'm sure it was somewhere in Germany. No, maybe it wasn't. I think it was actually Lisbon. There was a shop in Lisbon that it sells cornflakes, but it sells them in a huge big vat. You bring the box. So you bring your container there, and you buy as much cornflakes as your container can hold, and then they weigh it, and they charge you based upon the weight of the cornflakes in the box. So you weigh the box, and you go fill it, and then you weigh it again, and the difference is the price. And an absolutely genius idea. But in that same place, they were selling milk. So you bought your glass bottle of milk or your vat of milk or however size, doesn't matter what size you want to bring, you bring it and you fill it from the thing and you pay for what you use. That way no packaging is created to make the stuff in the shop. And it was cheaper. It ended up being cheaper. And I just sit there going, this is fast, this is brilliant. And that's in New York as well. I've seen a few of these shops pop up. We really need one in Ireland, because I can think of 100 things here that we buy every week that comes in new packaging every week, and yet we don't do enough recycling with it. And some of the things you buy in Aldi right now, most black plastic isn't recyclable. You know that? If it's really black plastic, it's already been recycled, weirdly. Feed stop, no, where are we? 2:45. I'm still, I'm nearly 3/4 an hour behind you. I am sorry about that. Mrs. has pulled a plug to go into the washroom. No, she hasn't. They've gone swimming. I'm on my own in the house, apart from the cat, which I think is asleep. We didn't adopt the cat. The cat adopted us. A cat has adopted us and has moved into the house and is currently asleep on my couch. And we called her Misty. Well, the kids called her Misty. Wayne followed. Thought it was crap. Digital save. Okay, we're back at audio. Back. Freeze again. 6 more likes for the win. Good lads. Sounds out, Bob. Hello. We're all back now, yeah. The feed stop. No, we're still all here, yeah. So everything's back to normal. I'm not sure hopping forward there now. Way behind you. Andrew Flynn, feed is stopped because YouTube detected it was wrong about 24. You know what, leave it of it. Hit the X at top right of the chat, close it like thumbnail. We're all starting out your own. This is deadly. Drive at IG has joined. Thank you, Drive. You crashed my thing. Another fellow YouTuber, good man. Frozen again. Let's stay together. Al Green. Everything else is popping up on the screen. I seem to be okay. Bit behind now, dropped out of 1446, back up 1450. So my question is maybe left behind. I might have missed your question. If anything fell out, I still have over 100 people watching at any one time, so it seems to be all excellent connections come up. Something must have happened on my end, or there was some sort of a glitch anyway that seemed to freeze everything for just a second. It's all back to normal now though. Drive with IG. I'll have to open up your I can't open up your channel while I'm streaming live. I can't do a whole lot to you, actually. I can do nothing to you. That's essentially it. I can't open your stream. I'll have a look as soon as I'm finished. Thank you for joining, though. You're very good. A bit behind now, dropped out Sunday service, great driving wagons. That's very good. Honest truth, any opinion on which used hybrid or EV for around 10k is best with a high driving position and is comfortable ride? The problem is there isn't many EVs on the market, so there's only about 10 actual EVs you can buy right now, and the ones that have high driving positions are ones like the Audi e-tron, which are way beyond most people's money. You're talking about €80,000 for the e-tron, the actual 4x4 one. Hybrid stuff, you might find a few out there, but the high driving position would be a problem. Maybe a RAV4 or something if you want to look at those kind of new ones. Older ones are not hybrids, they're diesel and petrols as standards. But for 10k, you're really not going to find it out there for EVs or hybrids with a high driving position. You're only going to find, you might not even find a Mark 1 Nissan Leaf electric for less than 10k. They're becoming fairly rare because there wasn't that many of them sold in the first place, and now there's a huge demand on them because everybody wants to just transfer over to them. Carmel Hassan says, what's your thoughts on a new Octavia PHEV and VW PHEV systems? I just had the PHEV Passat, called a Passat GTE, and it was superb. Absolutely gorgeous thing to drive. Really enjoyed wafting around inside the car. I would very happily buy one of those. I did my Sunday service podcast. The very opening bit is from the front seat of that car while I'm driving along. You can actually hear how quiet it is in it because I walk up the car, there's lots of noises around me, then I get in and close the door and it's absolute silence inside. It's just so well insulated. Very nice car. Bit on the price side, but nice. So the Octavia PHEV would be the same drivetrain underneath, so it should be exactly the same thing to drive. If Skoda do the right thing and make it very quiet and well insulated in there, it'll be a lovely car to drive, I have to say. I'm up to 3 p.m. I'm catching up on this. I'm catching up. The work has to be done. What time are we actually at? I've only half an hour to answer all the rest of the questions. Oh my God. This 2 hours just flies by, doesn't it? Honest truth. What will happen when the private sales of diesel and petrol in 2030? Will you be able to sell them on? And what will happen with the depreciation of these, especially with respect to part exchange, etc.? Truth is, honest truth, we don't really know. We've had problems before, so let's look back to 2008 for a minute. In 2008 in Ireland, the Green Party, in their infinite stupidity on most things, because they want to do the right thing, but they always end up torpedoing something to get that done. So, in honesty, they want to do the right stuff. In practice, they don't do it properly. So what they did was, in 2008, during the budget, to support Fianna Fáil and to keep them in power, they decided that they want to change the car tax from, instead of taxing the size of the engine, they taxed it by CO2. So that left anything pre-2008, so 2007 cars backwards, left in the old tax system, and the newer cars taxed in the newer tax system, which meant that a 5 Series, a 520 diesel, from 2007 attracted a tax of €1,950, and the diesel 5 Series in 2008 was attracting a tax of €200. Now that offset the entire system, which completely obliterated the used car market instantaneously, and didn't help when it came to the new car market because nobody had the money, and that's when the crash happened as well. Nobody had the money to buy any of these cars. So we had a crash, and we had a change in tax system, and yet the car industry still survived. So what's going to happen is your car is made of metal. It's worth of something. It's always going to be worth something. I think we'll have this nice step down along the way, and it will happen that older straight diesels and straight petrols will devalue a little bit more because people won't desire them. But there will always be a market for them. There's always going to be a market. Unless people change the rules really badly, there's always going to be a market there. So I wouldn't fear at the moment holding on to your petrol, diesel, or having it right after 2030. You should be okay. As long as the vast majority of the businesses has moved over to being electrification, hybrids, PHEVs, that kind of car that's happening out there right now, that's going to continue as it is. Annie McAfee says, that said, only the production... Oh, wait, no, he's answering a question in 2 parts. I better not read it out in case the 2 parts are important. Honest truth, I definitely want rid of my Lexus CT200H. Congratulations, it's a good choice. Have you any suggestions for the alternative within similar use price? You could buy a Tita. That's better than it. Oh, no, it's not. No, don't buy a Tita. Nearly any move you make from that Lexus CT200H will be an upgrade, and that's not I'm not trying to be weird about it, but it's one of those cars that really, it bothers me on sight, and it bothers me to sit in it, and particularly when you drive it, the whole car I would just literally pull over and walk rather than drive on. So nearly anything you go from that CT200H upwards would be better from any point of view. If you're looking for something with good fuel economy and you particularly like Lexus, any new Lexus would be better. They do make some really good cars at the moment. You could move sideways into one of the Toyotas. If you want to move around into kind of Korean, Japanese cars, anything from Kia or Hyundai is pretty good as well. There's loads of good cars out there for sure. But anything is better than a CT200H. Sorry, I know it's your car. Mini Eggs, do you prefer the Passat for the Superb? Would you buy a PHEV for 20,000 miles per year, commute 50-mile round trip, nowhere to charge at work? No, I wouldn't. PHEV is going to be just annoying at that point. If you're doing a round trip of 50 miles and 200 or 20,000 miles a year, you could easily do it full electric. Easily. No problem. Anything current in the electric market, and it's not going to be a gigantic jump from a PHEV to an electric car. Now, that said, let's just be absolutely clear here. If you're not into electric cars, and if you're into driving, if you like a kind of a spirited drive down the back roads of something or other, there are no electric cars in the market offering that kind of thing outside of something like a Model 3, and even that isn't going to be able to compete with the feeling you get from something like a Golf GTI, right? So you're not going to have that. You're going to lose that feeling. Now, 50-mile round trip and nowhere to charge and work means your PHEV is out of power before you've got halfway to work, and you'll have no power left on the way home. Now, you can go into the settings and make the engine charge the battery, and you can do all that, but it just savages the fuel on you. You're just not going to make any money back out of it. I would go full electric, or I would go something diesel or something straightforward petrol, just because your commute is just in that zone that it doesn't make a lot of sense other than battery. That's the only way out. So I'd probably go something like a Model 3, which isn't going to be terribly much more expensive than a Passat or Superb. It's a bit more, but not terribly much more. Or if you want to compete on the prices, like a Kia e-Soul or something, just for the commute. You can have your kind of fun car for the weekend if you want to. You can do that too. So there's always a way around getting what you want. But definitely at 50 miles, a PHEV is a pain in the hole. Right? It just is, because you can't get to charge the fucking thing every time. Every time you stop somewhere, you're charging, you know. Next Eco Car says, afternoon, Bob. How afternoon to you too, sir. I'm just checking my email to be sure all okay. Afternoon. Oh, we got hold on a second. I have to read out some. John Coleman has sent in a very generous donation into the PayPal. Thank you very much, John Coleman. You're so kind. You too can help my cause here to stay as independent as I possibly can, which allows me to be able to say whatever the hell I want to say every single time I say it. Sometimes that gets said back to me, which is kind of fun. When I go along to a press conference and some managing director goes, on your Sunday service you said I love that. Tom Crockett, hi Bob, looking at upgrading to a Kia Pro seat. Good car, I love the arse of that car, it's lovely. As my next car, I have 2 kids, both over 4 years old, so no need for buggies or massive car seats. Do you think it's a capable family car? Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's a 5-seat car, big boot in it. You know, you can stick in some muddy boots. You can put some bikes on the roof and stuff. Get it with a tow hitch if you want to kind of future-proof yourself for being able to tow 4 bikes. I know I've had this problem for a long time. Most bike cars only carry 3 bikes. You can put a roof rack on and carry 4 bikes that way, but even then they have to be specifically put on a certain way. So, but the long roof and the long tail on the Pro Seat is very, very good. Very nice car. If you can get an automatic, it's actually quite nice. Not the worst thing I've ever driven. Mark Turner Smith, some years ago where I worked, Southwestern Ambulance Service Logistics Support Department. That's a mouthful. Tried hydrogen experimental frontline vehicles. The logistics support of the technology is just too difficult. Yeah, that's the problem. Again, you have to go backwards to go forwards, and that's the problem with hydrogen. It's there, it's in the background, it's hovering around, and there is research going on, and we will see advances in it. I just don't think we're going to see that much advances in the cars, in the personal use cars for a number of years, unless you've got the infrastructure built first. And we in Ireland have disastrous infrastructure as it stands right now, and ESB has done nothing because their funding is just not there, and they're not getting enough information coming down, and they don't have enough. The people that are in charge of ESB e-car networks just aren't up to speed. They're not. They're just not. They're generally that job, and I know it sounds really, really pedantic and really weird to say, but generally the job in that section is given to people who are on their way out of the business and want to retire, and they want to go into a handy number for a few years to get out. So it's definitely happening. We will see upgrades coming soon, but it's just so frustrating to know that the market is there, people are asking questions, I'm answering questions, we're getting all the information out, and yet in the background it's been held back by infrastructure, by lack of political will, by lack of money, lack of investment. And that's what's going to torpedo this. That's what's going to torpedo this million car thing. It's just that stuff, not the cars, not the availability of cars. You got Next Eco Car there, you got Eco Cars on that loan. They all sell these cars. They're selling them and they're doing nice of it. It's doing fine. So the cars are available. That's not the problem. A million cars can be done. It can be done. You just need a lot of political will to go with it. Dan Jam says, very late today. I want an excuse. Wait, no. Oh, that's alright. Wagon of a mother-in-law called around. That's his excuse. That's a good excuse. I'll accept that. That's good. That's a good tardy note, yeah. Bob, why were you laughing so much at the Leon launch? Personally, I think it urinates all over the Golf. I wasn't laughing. I wasn't laughing at the car. It was a good car. I'm just not sure about the interior of either it or the Golf when you have these kind of slidey switches for the temperature control and very complicated, overly complicated infotainment screen. You know, it's all becoming very computer-like. And that's just a distraction for the driver. But I wasn't laughing at it. And I think it is nicer looking than the Golf, I'll be honest with you. I think the Golf 8 is much more like the Golf 7.8. You know, it's just not quite the 8. Just they changed the front of it. It didn't really change a whole lot else on it. It's a nice car, but the Golf 7 was a gorgeous car anyway. I would have, happily, a DSG Golf 7 1.4 TSI as my daily car. No problem. I think it's a great car. But it's gone off the market now, of course. Mark Turner Smith, some experiments on electric vehicles, still again too difficult to support emergency services. I get that one for sure. Like, emergency service never knows when it's going to be called out. Like, we have a fire brigade right here in the town. Then they might not move for a month, and then all of a sudden they're all called out at once. It's just not feasible for those to be electric at the moment. I think diesel is much smarter for there, and plus they don't go out every day. You know, ambulances are the same. Ambulances could be in Dublin today, in Cork tomorrow, in Portlaoise, Athlone. You know, they're travelling about a lot, so they haven't time to be 6 hours charging or something. Nigel Weir, right? I'm answering questions from 3:15 nearly. I'll stay until all the questions are answered. Relax, so no worry, we're going nowhere. Anyway, Nigel Weir, if you're thinking to buy a new vehicle, don't buy diesel, don't buy hybrids. Petrol, buy second hand, otherwise wait for an EV. Toyota lost the plot, soon will be in serious problems, and hybrids require more servicing. Don't know about hybrids requiring more servicing really now, Nigel. I know fellas here who have been driving Prius for years and only get them serviced once a year as normal. It was just servicing normal petrol engine. You could service it yourself. It's just a normal petrol engine. It just happens to be connected to electricity. You could wait for an EV. Look, you have to wait for the EVs to either come down in price. Not everybody has 40 grand to drop on a car, right? That's just straightforward logic, right? And these cars aren't cheap. Now, e-Golf has gotten cheaper recently, and Nissan Leaf is fairly affordable, and Renault Zoe is fairly affordable. But when you say fairly affordable, they're not exactly big cars. Now, e-Golf is a big car. It's a 5-seat car, but the range isn't very long in that. So there's always that tiny compromise in your head of going, well, I won't be able to drive very far in this car, but it's still very nice. Nissan Leaf still has the kind of long range, but it's not a very big car, and will again suit the kind of city environment. And Zoe, really, really popular in Ireland, that has its own problems. It's quite small, it's quite a tight little car. It's one of my favourite actually electric cars, but it's quite small and tight inside, and it's a unique kind of experience. So hybrids, some people just won't want to go electric cars. They don't have the money to do it, they can't afford it, and a hybrid can kind of fill that gap. And a hybrid run properly one of the modern ones, if you're driving properly, you're quite careful with your right foot, you can go quite a distance in some of those hybrids on pure electric. And petrol engine only cuts in every once in a while, so you can get that balance going, and it's a good kind of stepping stone. These people only hold onto their car for 3-4 years, and then it's gone again. So, you buy a Corolla today, and you end up in an electric Corolla in 4 or 5 years' time when Toyota figure out they've made a desperate mistake putting all their money into hybrids. And they have, and they'll pull it out of the bag eventually. But right now, I think investing in hybrid is fairly shaky ground for big companies. You need to be very careful about where you're going, because the market is moving very, very quickly. The supply isn't there. And if you look at plain sales of electric cars, 2.8, it might reach 3% if the wind blows the right direction this year. But a lot of that has come from waiting for the car to be delivered. It's not because the desire isn't there or the money isn't there. It's because people just can't wait, and they want to get a new car, and that's it. They want it in the first half of the year, so they go off and buy themselves a diesel. Anyway, McAfee servicing my TDI Octavia tomorrow, air, fuel, cabin and oil filters, and the oil total cost £53.17, including Quantum 3 VW507. Are we up at 507? Used to be 505. From Skoda dealers. I used to work in main dealers and saw that. I'd be the same. We service the Leon here ourselves, and a service for me on the Leon's about €70, and that's changing all of the filters. That's the oil filter, the air filter, the pollen filter, a gallon of oil, 4.5 litres, some GTX Magnatech. I use it most of the time. And I'll also top up all of the fluids, not just the oil. I do the windscreen washers and do all the other. While you're there, while you have everything pulled off the car, you might as well be doing everything while you're there. So you tend to do it all, and when you do it all, it comes to about €70, and I buy all the parts between Bradshaw's and Halfords. And sometimes I'll change the windscreen wipers as well, which is another. The windscreen wipers are actually quite expensive, about 25-30 quid for windscreen wipers. It's the long blade one. They can be quite expensive, but learn to service your own car, lads. It really isn't that hard. And if you own an electric car, there's no service you can do on it anyway. There's nothing you can do to it. You can do it at brake pads. I never changed the brake pads in an electric car. The suspension's the same. It's just standard shocks, so you should be able to do that as well. What don't you go for the Skoda Octavia 2018, Bob? Well, the big question, Robin Mulhall, I'm changing my car this year, but the big question is, should I go petrol, diesel, hybrid, hydrogen, blah, blah, what do I go to, right? So, me as a motor journalist, I want a car that I like driving. I want a car that looks good, which is my big bugbears, looks good. But to balance out all of that, I want to know whether an electric car is going to save me a lot of money, since I only drive about 6,000 kilometres a year anyway. Is it really going to save me enough money for the extra expensive electric car? And if I get an electric car, what does it actually like to drive every day? That'll be the biggest question for me, is what it's like to commute every day in an electric car, how much money you spend on it, what it's like to service it, what it's like to do things to it, Because I quite like getting my hands all greasy. I know, it's bad experience, but I like it. Andy McAfee says, just noticed the light board is back. It's right there. See? Does it look like we need still on January's page of the calendar, though? You've eyes of a hawk, Andy McAfee, I have to say. It is January on the calendar. That's terrible, isn't it? I might need a light. It's not getting very black outside, isn't it? All of a sudden. It's 3:45. But I am answering questions now from 3:17, so we're doing okay. We're catching up. Only 40 minutes behind or so. Anyway, Nigel Weir says, charging infrastructure in Ireland very poor, hardly changed for 7 years, need a lot of 7 kilowatt AC chargers in parking points for the 22 kilowatts AC blockers. And no such thing as an AC blocker. Get that out of your mind. I know it sounds, you go, oh, do you really have to charge them for the whole day? If you create a plug and you plug the thing in, don't forget ESB have an overcharge thing as well, so they charge you money for staying too long in a space. But 22 kilowatt ones, they don't, because it's free anyway. If we had more 22 kilowatt chargers and more 7.5 kilowatt chargers on the street, and I'm talking about a car park space with 50 of them, then it wouldn't matter. You'd never have enough cars charging at the same time for you to be out of a space. So we're, like, I keep going on with the incentives. The incentives are gone to the wrong end of the market. They're going to the consumer when they should go to the businesses. Should be incentivized to put in chargers. If you were going to Tesco's or Lidl have put in chargers, but only a fast charger and only one of them, right? Waste of time. What they should have done was put in 50 7.5 kilowatt chargers. 50 of them in their car parks. or 22 kilowatt chargers. And then every time you go to Lidl, you're going to plug in, and it wouldn't matter. You'll always get a space because there's so many of them there. Instead, they put in these fast chargers, which nobody can understand, or at least I can't. Stand there with your bleeding app in your hand going, I want to charge. Just press the button and charge. That's all I want to do is press a button, power comes on. I don't have to get involved with apps, signing up, bank accounts, no interest. Steve O.C. makes a good point here. Can't afford an electric car. Sticking to my 2010 Insignia, but I changed to double-edged razor instead of crappy plastic disposable on your advice, Bob. Doing my bit for the environment. That's it. I'm telling you, that is the biggest change you could have done, Steve-O. You buying an electric car from a 2010 Insignia to a brand new electric car will not save the environment one diddly squat. Not a bit. But you cutting down on your plastic use and you cutting down on buying new things consistently will definitely have a good knock-on effect over all the generations. And I use a double-edged, a proper razor, wet shave whenever I shave today. When I shave, when I don't use a wet razor, you see this thing. This is a Philly shave. I don't know, it's just called a Philly shave. This is, I would say, 17 years old. 16 or 17 years old, that one Philly shave thing. It works fine. In between, when I'm on planes or I'm flying here, there and everywhere, and I want to shave, I just use that. And sometimes the hotels give you a free razor thing, but it's a plastic razor, so don't touch it. I just leave it there. Mark Turner Smith, what about the Golf GTE as your next car, Bob? Over here, good prices, second hand, the same size as your current Leon hybrid. Yeah, I was thinking that as well, and I was actually thinking of going PHEV as well, another part of it too. But I think you it's like a backward step, and I think because we do just 6,000 kilometers a year, I think we could just get away with electric car. I think we would end up saving so much money by moving electric because of our short journeys that we'd only charge once a week. Like if we had a Leaf, say, we would only charge that thing once a week. So it's this clever kind of way of just saying, well, once a week we're going to put 15 euros, 16 euros into whatever charges at home, from empty to full. And that's all it's going to cost per week to run that car. And it's in the lowest tax band, and it's not going to go up in the tax bands, and it's always going to be a desirable car because it's electric and everybody wants electric. So kind of way of looking at it that way too. And plus, by having an electric car, I can offset my carbon emissions of having a V8. I still have something massive in the garage. I have a high desire for an Audi RS4 as well. The older one now. I'm talking about the oldest one. If you remember Clarkson and Clarkson in Top Gear raced two climbers up a cliff and he was driving an RS4 in that. God, that was such a good car. I drove that car. Beautiful car. Terry Atkinson says some YouTube channels have a wish list and you'd be amazed. People will buy you the things you need for your upgrades like cameras, etc. How do you create this wish list? Explain this further, Terry Atkinson. This sounds like an interesting idea. An Amazon wish list. So you create an Amazon wish list and you put it on your links and then people buy things for you. That's an interesting idea. I really feel bad about asking people for anything, to be honest with you. So I always ask for the kind of minimum. I always go, listen, just give €1 or something, it's fine. And we all can. Then it spreads the cost across. But I do forget from time to time that some people just go, well, look, I'll just buy you the camera and have done with it. That'll be the end of it. So I suppose, right, I should probably create this little wish list thing and see what happens. I'll have a look at it later on today and see what I can figure out, if I can figure it out, because I just have no patience with these things either. It's very dark. Is it gone too very dark? Can everybody see? Okay, you can hear me. Okay, it should be fine. Hi, Bob. What's your take on an electronic brakes? GM recently did a software update for stability control that caused a glitch and occasional complete brake failure. Well, isn't that good? Thanks, GM. We have brakes in our car now. We're going to screw them up. I'm not a big fan of messing with the brake end of things. I don't mind fly-by-wire throttles. I don't really mind the clutch systems being a bit weird or finicky. And I don't even mind electric steering, although it's very light and very disconnected. I prefer hydraulic steering. But when it comes to brakes, I like predictable. You like to know that when you get up and stand on that brake, because you have to, that brake's not just going to go down to the floor, or it's going to interpret your input into the brake in some weird way, right? We've had this in airplanes and things where we had fly-by-wire throttles and fly-by-wire stuff that's coming over the years, and it's caused our own sort of glitches. So any car that has a braking system that can be upgraded by software updates is a terrifying prospect to me, for sure. I'd prefer to see like 100% of the brake effort come from the user, so the user can decide how much brake effort is. I do now. Having said that, I do love the anti-crash system that's currently, I don't know what you really term that as, but they've all called it something different. So basically, when the traffic stops in front of you in the motorway, it hits the brakes for you. I love that thing. Works brilliantly. Honest Truth says, not sure Andy may go back to diesel for a while. Quite fancy a Ford Cougar or something similar. Renault Kadjar, something with a higher driving position, must be comfortable. Renault Kadjar is actually not a bad job to drive. It's alright, yeah. I don't have a problem with that one at all. It's a good car. Again, a little bit cheap on the inside, but that's just they have to make them affordable. They have to kind of make the plastic a bit cheaper on the inside. John Egan, lots of you are talking to each other, which I'm going to avoid. John Egan, hi Bob from New York. Question, please, your preference between a second-hand Skoda Karoq petrol and a Peugeot 3008 to keep long-term. Thank you, John Egan. Think about that now. I would go Karoq on that one, not because I dislike the 3008. I do like it, but long term, that Skoda Karoq is going to be worth more on the way out than the Peugeot. Peugeots don't tend to hold their value very well. The older 5008 did, and the older 3008 did, but the current 3008 isn't. Plus, you'll find it easier to get your Skoda Karoq serviced anywhere, pretty much, because it's a very standard engines in them yokes, and it'll withstand a lot of messing around. There's a lot of clever stuff in it. It's just the car I prefer more. So Skoda versus Peugeot, I'd go for Skoda between the two of them. But it'd be tight enough. I kind of like the 3008 as well, don't you? Andrew Flynn, get a Leaf 24 kilowatt Tecna, beautiful car with leather, heated seats and steering wheel, etc. I said you might want. I love it. Andrew Flynn, you're absolutely spot on. Love that. Get a Leaf, one that I'm selling, please, as quick as possible. Love that. Bob's my uncle. Good afternoon. Yippee. That's somebody's Bob, my uncle. Bob's my uncle. I'm your uncle. Yippee. Well, congratulations, Yippee. You've got a very strange uncle. We have been around the blocks today for sure. Still got 5 minutes left. My God, I've caught up on you. What happened? My God, you all stopped asking questions. I eventually get through them all, don't I? Sooner or later, one way or another. So to sum up what the government is trying to do, between now and 2030, they've got a lot of things going on. One is to have 1 million EVs. Now, EVs is anything from mild hybrids upwards on the road by 2030. Also, at 2030, they want to stop selling petrol and diesel engine cars. Both of these things are totally achievable, but it takes a bit of a mindset change on their behalf and on our behalf. We have to accept certain factors that are coming at us right now. There is a change of technology going on. Plus, there's a lot of vested interest in this. And I say this as well on the stage. Anyone who's come along to any one of my talks will have heard me say that before. There's a lot of vested interest. The noisemakers out there who are talking about the electric revolution usually sell electric revolution car, or they're a dealer of cars, or they don't sell them. That's the other part of that. So you've got people like BMW or Mercedes or Audi, or someone who doesn't really sell a lot of electric cars will talk them down a little bit, and someone who really heavily invested in it like Nissan will talk them up a little bit because they sell them a lot, right? So there's a lot going on in that market. It's very hard to look at it and go, well, you know what, we should not have electric cars, or we should have it. Of course we should. They're going to be brilliant for us at some point, but right now you have to be aware that there's a rush on, and it's a gold rush, and the people who are gold rushing are the people who are selling the stuff, whether they're selling the charge points, or they're selling the solar panels, or they're selling the something or other, because solar panels don't really work in Ireland all that efficiently. It's quite hard to make them operate. You can, but again, you have to invest a lot of money in that. You may never see that money back in your house either. You invest them all. So there's a lot going on in the middle of it, and it's quite difficult to kind of put it all together. And whether we can actually get to that point in the future, who knows? We're going to have to get there one way or the other, but we'll continue the conversation about electric cars for sure. Mark Turner Smith says the Audi RS4, the older ones, what a weapon. You're absolutely sure, man. Did I skip a few questions? I couldn't have skipped that many questions, surely. Going back up through the question, I'm sure I didn't miss anybody. There is a couple of questions I missed. I must have skipped over. I'm terribly sorry. I will come back to those questions. I'm not finished yet. I think they must have jumped forward at some point, did it? Oh, there's a wish list thing I was talking about, right? Okay, so we're just skipping forward. Hold on a second. Dennis O'Hare. Yeah, okay, I see it now. I saw a system where a discharged electrolyte was sucked out of a battery and replaced it and charged it with fluid. It took minutes to gain another 300 miles. I'll have to look up that one. Didn't see that one now myself, I have to say. Dennis O'Hare, living in the West Cork, do you think it would be a good idea to buy a Tesla Model 3? Would need to go to Dublin to get it serviced once a year. Yeah, it's no problem at all. You'll be able to drive. It's a nice little journey up to Dublin as well. There is no supercharger down your direction. The nearest one is the one that's near me here. It's about half an hour from my house. But you shouldn't supercharge that often anyway. It should be only part of your journey. But you can certainly, there's no problem charging down in Cork. You've got less charge points than the rest of us for some reason. Didn't put a lot of them in there. But they're certainly there. Cross says there's a few minimal packaging waste shops in Dublin with bulk dry goods and also zero waste grocery delivery service. They come to your house with your order and tip them into your own containers. That's genius. That's the way it all should be. I hate going to Lidl and Aldi and stuff, and especially Lidl, even though they have the recycling vat at the end. So you buy all your stuff and then you get off and you have to unpack the bloody stuff into recycling. I don't want to do that. I don't want the packaging to begin with. Just get rid of the packaging. Servicing is not required according to Cross. If you have a warranty issue, most they'll send down the repair van to you for the Model 3. That is there for Dennis O'Hare. So you may not need to get a service at all. Ribbit, watch your videos on the Seat Leon Cupra. After that went and bought an ST Cupra Leon 300 horsepower. Well done. 4-wheel drive, and it's a complete hoot to drive. The best car Seat made for years. I did a lap of Mondello Park on the same day, same one behind the other, in a Golf R, in a Golf GTI, in a Seat Leon Cupra R, that 300 horsepower one. And the Cupra was faster than the two of the other ones round the track, and much more fun to drive as well. Dave Hammond joining the conversation later. Where will the money come from our exchequer for 1 million switch to electric? The government currently take in a combined €5 billion a year in VRT fuel. How will the government make money work with 1 million using electric vehicles? They'll tax you. That's the simple answer, is what's actually going to happen. And I know that sounds really dismissive. We'll have to find a way into the future to navigate our way through these troubled waters. Is horseshit. They will just tax you. Generally, the exchequer only think in one way. So if they're making in €1 million and you want to do something, they have to figure out a way to continue taking in the €1 million, right? They don't want to take in 900,000. So with us all using electric vehicles, they'll find a way to tax themselves back into that position again. But it's very hard to get to that level and see a way through that's going to be sensible for the government to do. But that's the way it has to be, unfortunately, because they're taxing the hell out of you right now. And if you can save a bit of tax between now and then, great. But they'll find a way to get it back out of you. Johnny Dub. Bob, do you follow Shannon from Vantage Point Video? I do. I get videos from Vantage Point Video somewhere. He's done some amount of mileage in his Leaf. That's true. Yeah, he has. Vantage Point Video, don't they have an Opel Ascona or something? It's a blue thing. I in my brain I can see it with a sort of a roof on it, like a camper van, only it's just a van. Honest Truth says, thanks Bob, appreciate your honesty, Ari. The Lexus CT200H. It's been. I'm sorry, I'm very direct when it comes to a car I don't like. What's your take? We did electronic brakes. We did from there on out. We were caught up. See, we caught up now. Eventually, I've gone through all of the questions I possibly can. I think we just keep scrolling down. I'm sure we didn't miss any new ones. It's funny, your aunt. I love that. Somebody said I was their uncle. I could be. I have. Honest to God, my brothers have. I don't know how many kids they've got. I don't know. There's a lot of my brother's kids. There's a lot of them, and some of those kids have now got kids. So there's grandkids effectively in it too. And so I wouldn't really know them at all, to be honest with you, because I've lived out of Kildare since I was 17 or 18. I left Kildare and never went back. So I wouldn't know a lot of them now. And some of the kids that my brothers had were nearly the same age as me. So I was the youngest. I was born in 72. Some of their kids were born like 76, 77. So they were around my age. So they're adults as well. A lot of them. All of them, I think. I think all of my brother's kids are adults now. There'd be no children among them. And they would have their own kids. So I wouldn't know a lot of them, so there could easily be. No clue. 480 ponies stabbed under the hood on that. Okay, yeah, that's true. On the OC, the older one was a V8 and it had all of the engine mounted up the front where it should be in an Audi, right up behind the headlights. You know, they mounted the engines. It made servicing them a pain in the hole. I did the service on one once upon a time. Your hand gets ripped apart trying to get your hand into place to try and get at service kits. You have to take out the whole front of the car, but I wouldn't care less because that thing would burn coal. It didn't care what fuel you put into it. It would just go up the hill at 1,000,000 miles an hour. Such a fantastic machine to drive, but tiny. It was the older A4 way back. I'd love one of those. If you could ever find one, most of them are gone through hedges or burnt or broken and shite. 100% agree on your gold rush analogy. Cheers. You see, there's a gold rush analogy on right now. Everyone's rushing to make money from the EV. $5.7 billion was invested in green and renewable technologies last year. 5.7. Everybody wants their little 10% of that. You know, that's 10% of that's a lot of money. So that's a lot of money being invested out there. So everybody wants a bit of money. In the UK, a big diesel drive was pushed by most governments based on the CO2. They got to the point where there were too many folk getting free or 20, 30 pounds a year road tax. So they changed it to a flat rate. That's the way to do it. Jerry Wicklow says, cheers, Bob. Thanks for another good fun. And Dad. Robert Mulhall says, thanks from Madrid. From Madrid? You lucky sorry. Another Sunday service. It's raining. Well, actually, I was in Barcelona the other day and it was raining all the time. And I was in, where was the other place? Marbella. And we had thunderstorms. If you were following me on Instagram, you would have seen the thunderstorm, by the way. It was great crack. I was looking at it. I was drunk when I was Instagramming, so don't judge me. I was looking at a nice low mileage 2016 Audi A6 Avant S-Line, 190 brake horsepower, 2-litre TDI the other day. Big old bus, plenty of power and lots. And as is pre-2017 in the UK, it's 30 quid a year to tax. 30 quid a year to tax. Oh, we're being ripped off here so badly. Listen, we have come to the end of our stream. You're very nice. I shall investigate the wish list thing and see if that works out. Don't know if that's going to work out. We'll see what happens anyway. Andrew Flynn still thinks his comments are invisible. I'm definitely answering your comments, but that's the only comment you're making is, are my comments visible? I don't see the ones. They are indeed. That's the second time we've asked that. I've seen them all, but you haven't asked any questions. So I haven't seen any questions, so I don't think the channel is hiding anything. But if you're asking inappropriate comments, the channel will auto-hide them. It's the way YouTube is these days. But thank you very much for joining me today on this live stream. We've had a few technical difficulties to get through. We will be back again next week for another Sunday service at 2 p.m. on this very channel. You can keep up with me over the week that's coming. It's going to be a very busy week on Instagram and Twitter and the usual sort of bits that are out there that you can get in touch with me on. But you can go over to the Sunday Service Facebook community as well, is also there. If you head over to that, you can join that. It's a closed group, and we try and encourage each other in that little group to post whatever you want to post. But it is a closed group, so it's not something that everybody's going to be able to see. So you can join there and enjoy that part. Or you can leave comments here on the YouTube channel. More of that James Bond stuff is on the way, and I'm hoping that's going to end up being very good for us on the channel too. People come and watch it and share it and like it and enjoy it. Look after yourselves for the rest of this week. I don't know which one to end first. Which one am I supposed to end first, Andy McAfee? Do I end up this one first or that one first? I think I should end. I usually end up hanging my face at the end of these. And I end up on the screen going in the middle because I cut it off. But I'm hoping that you will join me next week for the next Sunday service. And I'm going to end it right here on end stream. But until the next time, I will see you on the far side. I hope that works.